All be seated, please. Before we begin tonight's meeting, I would like to take this moment to acknowledge the recent passing of Councillor Hugh Jackson, who was a councillor from Wonkseaton North Ward from 2000 to 2008. I invite everyone present to join me in observing a minute's silence as we reflect on his life and contribution to the people of North Tyneside. Thank you. Item 1 on the agenda tonight is apologies. I received apologies from Councillor Louise Bell, Tricia Neely, Councillor Liz McMullen, Councillor Joe Kirwin and Councillor Crothers. Is there any other apologies? Sorry.
Councillor Kerr, McGilty Chair.
Thank you. Sorry. Yeah, sorry.
Councillor Sarah Day.
Councillor Charlie Gray is running late.
Thank you. Sorry, Councillor. Yeah, I've got Councillor first. Yes, thank you. Sorry, thanks very much. Item 2 is the declarations of interest. Members are asked to declare a registrable or non-registrable interest in any relevant dispensations which have been granted in relation to any matters appearing on the agenda. Those members should also complete a card and return it to the Democratic Services Office. Sorry, Councillor.
Item agenda number 6, so we're retaining your fire and rescue service.
Thank you. Sorry. That now takes us to item 3, the minutes of the meetings held on the 18th of September and the 2nd of October. Can I ask the council to confirm those minutes, please? Sorry, Councillor.
Sorry, Chair. Just on the information in here, I actually sent the apologies in for the meeting of the 2nd of October. Unfortunately, the person that asked to put the apologies in was also unable to attend. So obviously it's shown notice. So I would just like to be noted that I wasn't here at the minute, but I did put the apology.
Thank you, Councillor. Yeah. Doing item 4. Sorry. Sorry. That was item 3, wasn't it? Yeah. Sorry. Apologies. And now on to item 4, which is the Save Langley petition, items pages 23 to 34. Can I invite Mr. Aaron Sten to present the presentation, please? Petition, please. You have 5 minutes to present the petition. Thank you.
Got it. We got there. Councillors, while we appreciate the pause to the closure of our school, Langley First School, given it's only a pause, we feel compelled to represent the 6,000 people who are against its closure. We are aware without academisation, the council would have continued with its damaging plans, and we feel some issues are still unaccounted for. I'd like to highlight what we're seeing in the council's papers. A pattern of inaccuracies and omissions both matter because they shape what everyone in this room thinks is true. You're being told Langley is in a financial deficit. It simply isn't. It's only forecast for 2026. You're being told birth rates are dropping. We agree, but ONS data shows an increase from 2026. NEPA has consistent and sustained internal migration, and a new housing development has popped up just out of our catchment. You're being told it made no sense to shut a different school. Parental choice wasn't taken into account during the proposal. Langley is the 3rd highest for catchment capture in NEPA and has a 93% capacity over the last 11 years. An assumption was made that all parents would happily move to Apple Tree Gardens, but surplus places across NEPA show this may not necessarily be the case. On the other hand, the current Year 2 is full across NEPA, meaning the parents who had to transfer would have their parental choice taken away from them. You're being told Apple Tree is a larger school. This is untrue. Langley has a larger net area. Only one of Apple Tree's 17 class bases is considered regulation size for a reception class, and only 4 are within regulation for Key Stage 1 and 2. Both halls at Apple Tree are under regulation guidelines for Key Stage 2. So we wondered, how could a school then take 111 children over their capacity? Langley is larger in every aspect. Most confusingly, a net capacity assessment was carried out in September to show a change of capacity at Apple Tree from 293 to 404, exactly 111 places. No such report was carried out for Langley, which potentially could have shown an increase there. This feels a predetermination. In Appendix 3, which was released yesterday, the statement, class sizes may increase but would not exceed legal limits, shows exactly what the plan was. Class sizes would have been well above 30 for Key Stage 2 in the combined years. This clearly was planned and made worse. It's in rooms, not regulation size. We hope academisation succeeds, as our children deserve better than these plans. Next, I'd like to discuss what wasn't in the consultation documents at all. Pre-16 funding. The Department for Education state that the local authority are in charge of funding algorithms. The authority states it's the Department of Education. Either way, Langley receives far less compared to other schools. On average, funding in the last 5 years across NEPA has increased 23%. Langley has only seen an 11% growth in funds. This equates to £100,000 a year if they were to receive the average amount. This algorithm is what is putting Langley into a deficit. Also, Langley was going to be the last piece in a high needs deficit puzzle. We believe the initial consultation is flawed in its lack of clarity around the £19 million grant from Safety Valve to fix issues within the high needs block by 2027. North Tyneside's approach has been to move money out of mainstream schools year on year to fix the high need deficit. The Langley proposal was simply that strategy made visible, a special school taking over a mainstream site. As Appendix 3 stated, the proposal is to use Langley site for Woodlawn. No other proposal was proposed. This also explains the obvious bias that was created within the consultation and the rules set out by North Tyneside Council for any alternative proposal, many of which we believe still hold a higher probability of success than the initial proposal. Just because they are more complex does not mean they are not viable. We know categorically Langley would not have been chosen if it was not attached to Woodlawn. We know this. Appendix 3 clearly states it. This decision was based out of pure convenience. We cannot allow more bad decisions like unaffordable PFI contracts at Coker Park, £350,000 in deficit last I checked, or Monks Eaton High School's deficit issues to damage more schools long-term into the future. This consultation was doing this. Ultimately, and unfortunately, this decision does not remove uncertainty for parents. It has to be recognised that this consultation has caused damage to the school and will undoubtedly affect admissions in 2026. For any parents considering Langley for their children, we want to share a message. We believe we are the safest pair of hands in North Tyneside. Our community clearly shows this. Miss Cal Booton, the Langley Phonics lead, teaches all children about a book called Speak Up by Nathan Bryan. By doing so, it teaches our children to speak up when they see injustice. Langley is something we as parents and teachers believe is worth fighting for. Langley will send inquisitive children out into the world who, like us, will fight for what we think is right. If academisation does not work, we know another massive mistake will be made by shutting Langley First School. If it rears its head again, we hope you seek out some alternatives for yourselves. Anybody in this room, please reach out, even anonymously if you want. We have so much more to say, but 5 minutes is not long. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thanks. Thank you very much. I now remind members that in line with the Constitution, the Council has a maximum of 15 minutes to debate this petition. And Councillor Joan Sharp, I would ask you to start the debate.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you. It's so wonderful to see so many children here tonight to see local democracy and how it works. So, and I begin by thanking the petitioners, the parents, the carers, the staff and the governors at Langley for taking the time to engage so passionately with this process. I also want to thank the ward councillors who have been tireless in representing their community throughout. The strength of feeling that we've heard during the consultation and tonight is real, it's sincere, and it reflects how deeply local families value Langley as a part of their community. This is something every one of us can recognise and respect. However, as a council, we have a responsibility to ensure that our education system is sustainable, financially secure, and able to offer the best possible outcomes for the children across the whole of the borough. That responsibility means that we can't simply ignore falling birth rates, significant surplus places, and the pressure those create on schools' budgets and long-term viability. The petition report makes these pressures clear. Like many areas across the country, we're seeing sharply declining pupil numbers, the equivalent of around 10 fewer classes of children being born every year in North Tyneside. When schools lose large amounts of pupils, they lose significant funding. Doing nothing in those circumstances is simply not an option. It would risk schools becoming financially unsustainable, it would reduce the large support they can offer, and ultimately it would damage the children's education. That is why the council undertook consultation, and this is why alternative options were presented and explored. And it is why we have listened carefully and to the responses when they came back. And Chair, it is important to say clearly, we have listened. The Mayor and Cabinet have listened, and that is why the proposal originally consulted on will not proceed as planned. We will work with the school to ensure that Langley remains open. This decision reflects the voices of the parents, the concerns raised by the community, and the work of the local councillors who have been constructive, engaged, determined to secure the best outcome for their residents. But whilst the school remains open, the underlying challenges haven't disappeared. Surplus capacity, low birth rates and financial pressures are still real. So the council is committed to working with Langley as it moves towards academy status, an essential step to securing the school's long-term future. Standing still is not an option, and we cannot pretend that doing nothing would somehow protect the school or its pupils. Chair, our approach throughout has been based on two things: responsibility and listening. We will always take difficult decisions when they are necessary for the wider education system, but we will also listen to our residents, our community, our schools, community and our stakeholders. Tonight's response demonstrates exactly that. We remain committed to ensuring that every child in North Tyneside has access to high quality, sustainable education system, and we will continue working closely with Langley, with parents and the wider community to make that a reality. I therefore recommend that the Council refer the petition to the Cabinet for consideration at the relevant point in accordance with the decision-making calendar.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Johnson, I believe you indicate to speak.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Chair, I'm speaking tonight on behalf of Cabinet members. Obviously, as the process is still ongoing, we are the decision makers, so we have to be careful what we say in this debate to not predetermine, prejudice or show any bias towards anything ongoing. So I wanted to speak directly to something that many parents have raised with us throughout the process, and quite understandably so. I know how frustrating it has been for families to feel like the people making the decisions were silent or unable to respond publicly while the consultation was taking place. I completely understand why it felt difficult. When your child's school and future are being discussed, silence can feel like indifference or like views are not being listened to. But I want to be absolutely clear. That silence was not a lack of interest, and it was not a lack of care. During any statutory consultation process, Cabinet members and officers are legally restricted in what they can say. We must not comment in a way that can be seen as prejudicing the outcome or predetermining the decision before the consultation has concluded. Doing so would risk undermining the fairness and lawfulness of the entire process. And that was particularly important in this case, Chair, because the Council received a number of legal letters from representatives, acting for parents and other stakeholders. Once formal legal correspondence arrives, the requirement for decision makers to avoid any comment that could prejudice the process becomes even more stringent. At that point, the only proper and lawful course of action is to allow the consultation to run its full course without any public commentary from Cabinet members. None of these constraints are political choices, they are legal obligations, designed to ensure fairness, transparency and due process for all. They exist to protect the rights of everyone who takes part, including those who petitioned. So while we could not speak publicly, we were listening. We saw every representation, every submission, every email and every concern raised throughout the consultation, and we are acutely aware of the strength of feeling in the community. I want to sincerely thank parents, carers and staff for their patience during what we know is an anxious and uncertain time. Your engagement has been invaluable, and the views that you express have played a major role in shaping the decision that has been taken. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Wallace, you've been indicated to speak.
Thank you, Chairman. I completely support the petitioners, and I hope that this petition will go to Cabinet for their consideration too. I would point out that I think the communication has been woeful throughout this process, and a lot of questions have remained unanswered. In particular, my very recent concern is that I, as an elected member, know more from our MP's Facebook page than from the information which was circulated to us as elected members yesterday. I think that's very wrong, and I think it's also wrong. It puts the parents of the children affected in a very difficult situation as well, if that information has not been forthcoming in through the proper channels. And it's for the parents who are caring for their children in this very difficult situation that we should be most concerned. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Carl Johnson. Sorry.
Thank you very much, Chair. Can I just start first of all by welcoming all the parents tonight and families. It's great to see you. I've spoken to a few of you on the phone over the last couple of weeks. I just say this is your council chamber, and it's your job to actually hold us as elected members to account. We are here to listen to you and make sure your concerns are heard and acted upon. Myself and all the councillors in North Tyneside Conservative Group strongly oppose the proposal to close Langley First School. This isn't just a building, it's the heart of the community. It's where children grow, friendships are made, and parents find support. The petition you started, signed by thousands, just shows how much the school means to everyone. Closing it would tear apart friendships, disrupt lives, and damage the very community that has been built here. This is a place where people matter. But let's be clear, you've had to fight to get your voices heard. The council has paused the consultation because of you, because of people power. But we need more than just a pause. We need a real commitment to listen to the community and to act upon what's being said. If Langley First School is to stay open, or if any changes are to be made, those must those most affected, parents, teachers and the community must be at the heart of those decisions. Langley First School isn't just bricks and mortar. It's a place where children feel safe, where parents feel supported and where the community comes together. Closing it would be a huge loss. Let's keep Langley open, stand with the families and as a council do the right thing.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Early, I believe you've indicated to speak. No. Oh, sorry, Councillor Murphy. Sorry.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, I'd just like to thank everyone involved in the Save Langley campaign and indeed the Save Monkston Middle campaign. What struck me again and again, and Councillor Drummond and Councillor Day as well, was that these were people often with full-time jobs, caring responsibilities, but still they managed to find precious hours to throw themselves into this campaign. And the material and the arguments they presented to us were breathtaking. It was so clear and well-informed and well-researched. It was obviously a work of great effort. And as a parent myself, I am in awe of anyone who managed to find the time to do that. I'd also like to say that this campaign was very passionate and very heartfelt, but throughout it was also civil. It never descended into acrimony, and I think that's a great credit to everyone involved. As Councillor Johnson highlighted, schools are vital. They are the heart of our community, and the council is aware of that. And I think what's been very clear in the decision this week is that the council does listen, but the council can only listen when people speak. And today and this week and in the past month and ever since you came to our surgery, you have spoken, Monkston, with one voice. And I think we teach children the British value of democracy. And I think what we've seen in Monkston over the last 6 to 8 weeks has been democracy at its finest. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Lilly.
Thank you, Chair. This petition is informative, objective, positive and tempered in its language. There's widespread support in the community, as evidenced by over 6,000 signatories, and it is positive that at this late hour the council has agreed to delay the decision to confirm closure. Local democracy in action. The reasons behind the decision to close Langley are budget deficit and falling numbers, but is this an accurate picture? As has already been stated, Langley is the third highest choice in NEPA for catchment capture and has been at 93% capacity over the last 11 years. Langley is not in deficit at present, although one is forecast for 2026, but one could also think that if they were treated the same as the average NEPA funding over the last 5 years, would they actually be in deficit, with the average NEPA increase being 23%, where Langley is only 11%. But having said that, it still beggars belief how this administration has allowed schools' budgets to fall so far into deficit. Someone must have been asleep at the wheel, and Langley has been caught up in the inability or unwillingness of this administration to control schools' budget deficits. It is seen as an easy target for closure while being earmarked as a site for Woodlawn School. An Academy Trust would not be interested if Langley was in the dire straits painted by this administration. I sincerely hope that the academisation process has a positive end result. I would like to congratulate the petitioners who have worked hard to bring this to council and have seen that all their hard work has sown the seeds of a positive outcome. However, I fervently hope that the petitioners are not just being led up the garden path, and in weeks to come, we'll be back in the situation that we're in now. Langley School should remain open, no ifs, no buts, no maybes.
Dr. Scorio.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to record in the minutes my appreciation for the parents and teachers of Langley First who have put so much effort into this cause and taken time out of what is presumably very busy schedules to stand outside on a cold and wet November night because they clearly feel like they feel like they're not being heard. It's like a sea of red in the gallery, which on this occasion is a good thing. So thank you so much for coming along. There's so many of you. It's so great to see the strength of feeling about this cause. And hopefully, I mean, it's great what we're hearing from the other side tonight, but hopefully your appearance and attendance here will really speak through. So thank you.
Sorry. No. Sorry, Councillor Smith.
Thanks, Chair. Great presentation, by the way. It was excellent. Really, what I want to do is look at the values of North Tyneside and what we claim to do. So when we look at 21-25 plan, what we tell people is we're a family-friendly North Tyneside, and I like to believe that is true. And we have a chance to prove it and make sure that Langley stays open. In our bold new plan, we have 5 criteria, and I think that Langley fulfills 4 of those criteria and therefore should be maintained. So when you look at those criteria, a better life for all begins with education. When you look at a better start in life, Langley is a school of achievement and high standards, much more so than Appletree. Good work for all and economic growth. Well, that's driven by an educated populace, starting with the very young. Neighbourhoods that enhance lives. Local schools are the beating hearts of our communities, and Langley is essential. And I just cannot imagine a good reason for closing it. Only weeks ago, we heard from Councillor Johnson about good debt and bad debt. And when you look at this situation, surely maintaining a school that would cost 100,000 quid has to be good debt. It has to be a good investment in our children. You know, we sat here and voted for pay rises for cabinet members on the recommendation of a panel. Fine. I believe that those pay rises totaled £160,000. There's money in our budgets to pay for this. We've got strategic reserves. We should not be considering closing this school. So, as I say, North Tyneside and 21-25 plan, we are a family-friendly North Tyneside. Well, let's prove it. Let's keep Langley open.
Hiya, Councillor. Councillor Bartoli.
Thank you, Chair. This debate tonight is not just about a petition. It's about what kind of borough we want to be for our children. The Save Langley First School petition has over 6,000 signatures. That's over 6,000 residents, staff, parents and grandparents clearly asking this council to do one simple thing: reject the proposals to close Langley First School. They're not asking for anything unreasonable or extravagant. They're simply asking us to stop a decision that would disrupt children's education by uprooting them from a safe and familiar school, that would break up a thriving, close-knit community, would push families into longer, more difficult journeys. And ultimately, since this petition was submitted, the administration has announced that the consultation on Langley is being paused. Let's be as clear as we can. While we and many parents have welcomed that announcement, the pause is not enough. A pause does not remove the proposal from the table. A pause does not give families certainty. A pause simply keeps hundreds of parents, children and staff in limbo. And it also leaves the parents of the other schools caught up in this review wondering if they are next in the firing line. At any point, this administration could unpause and push ahead. So if our Labour councillors want to claim they are listening, they cannot hide behind the word pause tonight. They need to send a clear, unambiguous message that this merger cannot go ahead, not just by how they vote on this petition, but by the vocal support they give in this chamber tonight. Sadly, in her first 6 months in office, our new Labour mayor is presiding over a programme of school closures and mergers unlike anything we've ever seen. The new mayor has closed or proposed to close more schools in her first 6 months in office than the previous 2 mayors did in 20 years. And residents are quite rightly asking how her supposedly family-friendly administration has brought everyone here. The truth is simple, and Councillor Lilly said it. This Labour administration has been financially asleep at the wheel. We're told these closures are all about financial sustainability because pupil numbers are down and the system is no longer affordable. Yet at the very same time, the Labour councillors opposite me unanimously voted themselves pay rises worth £130,000 a year, including 235% pay rises for the cabinet members who sit on the front row and 85% for our deputy mayor. They voted for those pay rises in the same week that this education review was announced. You could not design a clear picture of warped priorities if you tried. For the benefit of those watching, on Thursday, they said, let's give ourselves 235% pay rises. And on the same Monday, they said, we must consult on closing and merging schools because the finances are dire. That is not family friendly. That is not putting children first. That is throwing the future of our children and parents into doubt while rewarding themselves. This evening, we'll be debating the council plan. It's the plan the mayor sets out her big ambitions for her future cabinet. With phrases like better lives for all, the best start
Sorry,
in life.
Councillor, can you be winding up now? We are approaching the
Places to be
15
proud
minutes.
of.
Thank you.
Good work and economic growth. Closing good schools is the opposite of giving children the best start in life. Ignoring this petition or hiding behind a pause is the opposite of listening to working people. And stripping our community of its local school entirely is the opposite of better lives for all. Closing schools is a political choice and it's the wrong one. But tonight you have a chance to do something better. So tonight I'm asking this council to send a clear cross-party message. We will unanimously approve this petition and reject the proposal to close Langley First School, not just pause it. Give certainties to all those families who are here tonight caught up in this review by ruling out forced mergers that hollow out our local communities.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm sorry, Councillor Shaw, we are at the end of our 15 minutes. I'm sorry about that. So the recommendation has been that we go to send the petition to the Cabinet. Is that accepted? Thank you very much. Yeah. Right. Sorry about that, but while the gallery has cleared, I thought it was better to just pause the meeting for a couple of seconds. So we now go on to item 5, which is public questions. We have two valid questions which have been received from members of the public to be asked at this meeting. Each questioner in attendance has 2 minutes to ask their individual questions and a further minute to ask a supplementary question. Any supplementary questions must arise directly out of the substantive question or the reply. The person responding to the question has 5 minutes to reply an initial question and 2 minutes to reply to the summary question. Question 1 is from Mr. Appleby. I don't believe Mr. Appleby is in attendance. I've been told that Mr. Appleby isn't going to be attending. Therefore, we will take it as read. And I'll ask Councillor Carl Johnson if he would respond, please.
Thank you, Chair. Newcastle International Airport has been carrying out a consultation on its Master Plan 2040. The consultation is a mechanism which enables all comments on the proposed master plan to be considered, including those which relate to climate change and ecological matters. The authority is supportive of the overall aspirations set out in the proposed master plan and recognises the vital role of which the airport plays in linking people in the North East to destinations across the world. The importance of the airport and still in economic growth in our region is recognised, and the regional North East Local Transport Plan, as well as the North Tyneside Local Plan. The proposed master plan notes that the airport has set a target to become a carbon net zero airport by 2025, and that relates to Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions from its own ground-based operations, and this is a positive development. It's also noted and welcome that the airport has obtained accreditation under the Airport Carbon Accreditation Programme at Level 4, and seeks to conclude the work towards the highest level of carbon accreditation available. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. We say there'll be no supplementary question, therefore we go on to question 2, which is from Ms. Davis. I believe, the attendance. Would you like to say the question is read, or you would like to read the question?
I'd like to read the question, please, Chair. In answer to a previous question on this topic, the developing community-led arts and cultural initiatives, the Council stated that we always meet with any residents and any community groups that want to meet with the Council to discuss how to make our area a better place to live, work and visit. Unlike other councils in our region and throughout the UK, North Tyneside does not currently have a permanent arts officer that is not a short-term role or a fixed-term contract. A person who leads a team with expertise in creative community development, access to council resources, including long-term opportunities to attract timely funding in partnership with local residents for projects that they have a voice in shaping and being part of. Many people across North Tyneside want the opportunity to express their concerns on this matter in a public forum led by local people. Will the Cabinet member responsible for arts and culture and head of culture accept an invitation to meet with us with the aim of planning such an event?
Councillor Cole-Johnson, I believe your answer is.
Thank you, Chair. As I said at the last meeting, I am very happy to accept an invitation. I haven't had one yet, but I'm happy to meet with you and have a constructive conversation about arts and culture in North Tyneside. The cultural sector is extremely important to the Council. Over the last year, the Council invested 1.9 million in the sector, including 700,000 of external funding. This amount of investment is higher when benchmarked against comparable local authorities in the region. We've also had the North Shields 800 programme this year, a fantastic event of art and culture in our borough. The Council until March 27 has procured Helix Arts to deliver Artist Agency, a development programme for artists, which develops and nurtures creative organisations and freelancers. 104 artists have benefited from this programme, which provides one-to-one support, mentoring, group work and training programmes. In December, the Culture and Creative Zone Programme Manager will provide a creative and community development support to cultural organisations across the borough. To date, this programme has supported 153 cultural organisations, with additional organisations supported through the Culture and Events team. The Council continues to deliver its support for these programmes as it is, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Do you have a supplementary?
Yes, I do. Thank you. As regard the the 800, the North Shields 800, the funding didn't come through till July, and I know it was because of the funding process. But there was a lot of community-led projects that just didn't take place. There's also a lot of community-led projects that were actually self-funded, and it would have been much better, would it not, had they worked in conjunction with the council if there'd already been an established arts officer. That is what we're wanting to do. Is so for this process to go ahead, will we be able to contact the council within the next few weeks and arrange a forum for local people to actually proceed with this proposal?
So I'd say if you get in touch, no one's been in touch so far, but if you do get in touch, I will absolutely agree for this to go ahead.
Thank you. That now brings us on to item 6, presentation from the Chief Fire Officer. We'll now, following the presentation, members will have 15 minutes to ask questions. Can I welcome the Chief Fire Officer, Peter Heath, and thank him for being here. I now invite Mr. Heath to his presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Madam Mayor, elected members and remaining members of the public. It's a pleasure to be standing in front of you this evening to talk about your fire and rescue service, Tyne & Wear Fire and Rescue Service. I feel a bit of a fraud in some respects, so I'll never start with an apology. But tonight, Mr. Chair, I am the Chief of Tyne & Wear Fire and Rescue Service, but I've signalled my intention to retire at the end of March. And my replacement has been identified as my deputy, Mr. Stuart Nicholson, but unfortunately is currently in Mumbai and unable to attend. If I can chair on behalf of the Chair of the Fire Authority, Councillor Philip Tighe, is currently engaged in a by-election and is unable to attend this evening as well, and offers his apologies for his absence. Members, if I may, I've got a short slide deck that I'll come to in a moment, but if I can offer my thanks on behalf of Tyne & Wear Fire and Rescue Service and indeed the Fire Authority for the ongoing support from the members in this chamber, and indeed the communities across Tyne & Wear and the officials who run the council. The strong partnership that existed certainly long before I arrived in 2020 has certainly, I've seen it grow under my time in the service in the last 6 years, and certainly in the last 2.5 as Chief Fire Officer, working with Chief Executive, with the officials and indeed elected members, has only added and strengthened the good work that was already in place. That doesn't mean to say it's finished, and it doesn't mean to say it's complete, but it's a very strong foundation, and I'll start by thanking you all for that ongoing support. I'm sure you may already know, but for completeness, and I know they're in the chamber tonight, you're represented at the Fire Authority by the councillors on the screen, and I have to say that I haven't had the chance to discuss tonight with them and get some insight into the areas that you might be interested in. I've tried to focus the next few slides on the areas that you may want to probe or indeed follow up with. I could talk for the next 2 or 3 hours on the fire service and the work across North Tyneside, but clearly within the parameters of time, I'll stick to the brief and I will highlight some of the key areas, and hopefully it will spark some interest or some areas that you may want to probe. If it goes beyond the time allowed, I would be delighted to hear from anybody who wanted to follow up with myself, or my colleague who's with me tonight, sitting behind me, is Steve Burdis, who's the group commander for the area, and again has the detail on most of the stuff that happens across North Tyneside when it comes to fire. If I may add, Station Manager Trevor Sturrock, who again is on leave today and can't attend, but he is embedded in North Tyneside. He is the local commander. He is the person who works closely day to day with the officials, communities and the members across this borough. He chairs the Antisocial Behaviour Community Review Group and has done for some years. And speaking to council officials, I have to say that I get very good reviews about the work that he manages to do along with partners in that. So if I may now move on, Chair. On the slide there, you'll see that just by way of summarising, the approach that we take to working with communities and indeed serving the communities is very much one that looks to prevent. Where we can't prevent, we will protect, which is generally around fire safety and the business environment. Education forms a key part of that work, as does preparing for when things go wrong, responding when we need to, and ultimately learning and reapplying that. That only works to good effect because we do it in partnership, and the support of the council and indeed the citizens of the borough make that something that we feel fiercely proud of and we protect very dearly as a trusted partner in the community. Turning to some of the detail that may be of interest to members, and again, Chair, if I may, I'm sure the slides will be available afterwards to anybody who would want any of the detail. As you'll see on the slide, I've tried to pull out some of the areas you may be interested in, and certainly on the Operation Coast Watch, and this partnership approach to addressing antisocial behaviour, we have seen significant reductions because of that joint work along the coastline, particularly where secondary fires, and secondary fires are generally fires where refuse or non-structural items are on fire. So it can often be discarded furniture, fly tipping or the likes. Quite often it's things that are brought together, and as I say, it's generally considered as outside of our premises in the open. The overall reduction, and I've lifted the police, the chief constable's figures, but during that programme we saw a 41% reduction in antisocial behaviour, not through the fire services activities, but through the involvement of fire service with all partners, including the council, the police, Coast Guard and many other partners. And I think that cements really the approach to how we do business. I've highlighted bonfire time because at this time of year it's fairly topical, and it would seem strange to me not to talk about it when I have the opportunity. I do have a slide that picks up a bit more on it in a moment or two, but again, looking at the data that you see in the slides, and I'm happy to pick up on some of the detail after it. I understand that across communities, it can be an anxious time when they see fires burning in what they would regard as an uncontrolled way and open. During the bonfire period of time, we do see across the whole of Tyne and Wear an upturn in activity, particularly around what we regard as secondary fires, the refuse, the discarded items, and often where people have deliberately set fires. In North Tyneside, I know that it's been very topical. There's been one or two instances that have made quite a bit of media, and I understand for citizens it may be a concern. But from the fire chief perspective, I'd offer you reassurance that there is nothing, I need to choose my words very careful. I don't by any means trying to diminish how serious and how worrying it is for people. But from a number of incidents and our response to it, which is always very measured, taking safety of the citizens and indeed the crews, we take a very measured approach, and there is nothing that I would bring to your attention as alarming, although there are areas definitely, and I know certainly through the Mayor's office that there are areas we want to continue to focus on. I hope you've had a wee chance to read ahead there to the community safety engagement. And again, I've just pulled out some key data, and of course the numbers are meaningless. What I'd invite you behind each of these numbers as a person, as a family, as a community, the council and certainly other registered social landlords have a duty and do a very good job of providing suitable and adequate housing with the right smoke detection. But we often find when we're out and about doing safe and well checks, which is visiting people in their homes, offering a visit where we would go and check and give them advice around fire safety, we often find for a number of reasons that a smoke alarm may be missing or it may be damaged. We will never leave a house, we will never leave a home without a working smoke alarm. So when you see the numbers that are on there, it's not because people are not doing their job necessarily, it's because when we come across something that's not working, we won't leave people in a position where we feel that there might be some vulnerability. So behind each of these is a number. If I can draw out the fire cadets, engaging with the youth is, in my opinion, key to a thriving, successful community. Across this borough, as you'll see, the engagement with the youth through our cadet scheme, and as you'll see in a few minutes through some of the other youth intervention schemes, I think is key to the work of the fire service. It's key to the work of the council. And you've listened carefully through the last debate. And you don't have to look far in society to see that everything we do depends on having a thriving community that feels safe, is well educated, and develops good citizens. I've put the last one at the end. Across Tyne and Wear, we have open days at all our stations, and they're always well attended. But I have to say, in the 6 years I've been in Tyne and Wear, I don't know what's different in North Tyneside, but the amount of visitors we have through the doors, I think, is testament to the way that the community sees the fire service. I hope it's testament to the services we provide. But more importantly, I take it as a great endorsement that the community feel at least content and open to come and approach the fire service. But on those days, it's everybody that you would want to see in that yard. It's partners that work to deliver every day for the citizens of North Tyneside. I've pulled this slide out, and again, I'd be happy to come back to any follow-up questions. But again, I understand certainly from media and social media, there's quite a lot of chat around the activity around bonfire night. I've taken this from our official statistics, and I felt a map maybe more topical than a list of the data. This is on the 60, or from the 5th to the 6th, and again across the North Tyneside area, the dots that you see, the red are what we would regard as primary fires, so generally property fires in property, fires in structures, whereas the secondary fires are generally the bonfires, the refuge fires. What I'm hoping to reassure is, whilst every one of these I have no doubt will be a nuisance to a community member, maybe a concern for a community member, I would offer the reassurance that we need to keep working on them, and I know there's work through the Mayor and working with certainly all the partners. But I'd offer the reassurance that there is nothing extraordinary or out of the ordinary, and I certainly don't mean to offend anybody or diminish the fact that people may be concerned about this if you're a local resident or citizen. But I'd offer the reassurance that the work through the partnership to continue to look at how we learn and reapply and address and work with communities is ongoing. I've talked about youth intervention to some degree, and hopefully the points on the slides there will give an insight into some of that. Engaging with the young people through what I would regard as good citizenship, whether it's through Sparks, whether it's through the Phoenix programme, which seeks to get people who are quite often vulnerable, they've been identified through school, through social work, through councils, and being able to bring them together and through a well-structured, accredited curriculum, work with partners to expose them to good citizenship, to expose them to volunteering, to expose them to what it is to be a citizen who can go out and apply for jobs and thrive and grow in the way that we would want. It's the heart of good communities, in my humble opinion. when you look at some of the example towards the bottom, that engagement and certainly focusing it allows us to really make improvements. And the apologies for the acronym, the local super output area, it refers to small postal addresses where we'll target very closely where we see stuff, and then we'll go in and focus our attention as a partnership on that. And that, in this particular instance, it shows a significant reduction. But the job continues. You need to keep engaging with communities on that. We have a very thriving business community across North Tyneside, and through our fire safety, our protection teams, we are out all the time engaging. We have an education, we have an inspection regime, we have an enforcement regime. I'm pleased to see that positive engagement with business, and as you'll see in the slide, working with them where we get false alarms, not only is a disruption to businesses, it creates capacity issues for the fire service because we're out dealing with false alarms when in actual fact it could be ready to stand to go to fires that are actually happening or more training. But that engagement with business across North Tyneside is allowing us to make positive impacts, and I have to commend them on the work they're doing to reduce the impact on their communities, on their own business, and indeed on the fire service. And that reduction at the end, as I say, in underwater fire signals and indeed non-domestic fires, I think is testament to that good work. I've lifted this out of the latest performance report for North Tyneside for the first 2 quarters of the year. I would maybe just highlight where you see total incidents going up. These things are highly susceptible to, so during the summertime we had a fairly dry spell and we saw a lot of small fires, so that pushes the number up. We don't discount them, we count every fire. So they are highly susceptible. And again, I'll bring it here for awareness and openness, but over the year, we'll trend this out over the year. As you'll pick out some of this stuff, special services, quite often with special services, this is attending with North East Ambulance Service, gaining entry to premises where they have a concern for the residents. So we will gain entry for them. That gets regarded as a special service, as does road traffic collisions and others. So whilst the numbers go up around special services, it's not always a negative, if that makes sense, but we're working with partners for communities. On the top right there, that small table, this borough and this chamber has exercised about some changes I proposed to make 1.5 years ago at Wallsend Fire Station, where we went from 24-hour-a-day crewing to day crewing, and quite rightly communities were concerned. And through that engagement, we were able to work with communities and with the support of the fire authority, make the change to day crewing. We've kept a close eye on that. We've always maintained the 2 fire appliances that would be in North Tyneside at all time, that we agreed to. And the reason we're putting up there is the busiest time we have across North Tyneside is the deeper the red, the more activity. So it's to simply highlight that our basic premise was that our busiest time was when that pump is available, crewed, stands true today. So to offer reassurance that not only have, it feels like from communities, they've now realised that the service that they get, the response times remain strong. Of interest, we had quite a lot of staff unrest, and as it stands here today, we now have a queue of people waiting to go and work at that station because they recognise it's a positive benefit for family life. It is your fire and rescue service. It's the people who sit in this in the public galleries fire and rescue service, and really this was just to try and summarise that. I'm cantering through some data here tonight. I could talk for hours on the contribution of the people in North Tyneside helping us thrive and deliver the services you want. But hopefully the bullet points draw out the key points. What I'd like to leave you with is, if anybody would like to engage further and talk in more detail about any points, please get in touch with me and please get in touch with my teams. You have local commanders. I'd be delighted to meet with any of you and pick up on any specifics you have, any questions you have, or indeed, if you just want to come and have a look around, the door would always be welcome. Chair, if I can, I think I'm on my brief and I'm happy to conclude the presentation and take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Heath. I now invite members to ask questions on the Councillor Ian.
Yeah, thank you for coming to the meeting. Thank you for the presentation. Councillor Ian Grayson, Wallsend Central. You've touched on the topic that I want to raise. So during the consultation on the proposal for the overnight closure of Wallsend Fire Station, the Wallsend councillors supported residents in raising concerns on behalf of residents about public safety. So, and you say you did touch on this, but if you could possibly just go over it again for me, please. Could the Chief Fire Officer explain what's been the impact of this change with particular regard to emergency response times?
Chair, for me. Thank you, Councillor. I'm happy to provide the detail of the specifics to the second response times. We track these regularly, and I'm pleased to say that we saw a couple of things changing over the year across the whole of Tyne and Wear. So we introduced a system where our staff would put their kit on before they leave the fire station if there's a call, and they would also put their seatbelts on. So we've saw a 20-second or so, and it fluctuates between 10 and 20 seconds across the whole of Tyne and Wear, changing our response times from alerting to getting out the door. But that's because I want my staff to be dressed properly and fastened in the seats before they leave. If I turn specifically to Wallsend in your area of interest, there's been a marginal increase and please excuse me because I don't have the specifics, but we're talking in the region of 10 to 15 seconds of a difference in terms of the response time. The turnout time and the time from being alerted to getting out the door. I would offer you the comment that what we haven't seen is any upturn in any incidents of note in the period where the appliance is not available and there are other appliances to attend. The response times in North Tyneside, as they do across the whole of Tyne and Wear, continue to operate at somewhere about 2 minutes plus, well below the national average of 8 minutes and 43 seconds, I think, for the national average for response to fires in houses and homes. Within Tyneside, within North Tyneside, and certainly within this area, we operate well in excess of 2 minutes below that. And across Wallsend area, as I say, the number of incidents has not significantly increased. It remains stubbornly stable, which I'll take as a relative positive. For the communities, we've seen no degradation in the availability of community fire appliances to go into the communities. And overall, I think the communities can be reassured that the services that they have in their area continue to be robust, resilient, and there for them when they need them. Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you. Councillor Thurloway.
Thank you, Peter, for the presentation, and more importantly, thanks to you and your staff for keeping us all safe. Bonfire night is one of the busiest nights for the fire and rescue service. Would you explain what extra strain bonfire night places on the service and what additional resources are used to mitigate that change?
Sure, thank you. Thanks, Councillor. Yes, I'd be happy to do that. I'll start with the positive. We've been doing this for a very long time, so it's a very well rehearsed exercise and a set of options that we have in. On the preparation for bonfire night, the work that goes on with councils and with other partners, and to a large extent with the police, is extensive, and that's working with councils to have refuge uplifts. It's about having local intelligence through the community wardens and the likes to understand where we may see hotspots. We have engagement with schools, so we really up the level of engagement with schools and with other establishments where we can engage with young people, where we'll use the data that we know from the year-round information around where we see ASB, antisocial behaviour or fires emerging, to try and target patrols, and we've certainly had a number of joint patrols. Heading into bonfire night, and on bonfire night itself, we have a well-rehearsed plan that we put in place, Ops Vulcan, which operates between ourselves, councils and the police. And certainly for Tyne and Wear Fire and Rescue Service, what that sees is we staff an unmarked car, and in that car is a senior officer, and as I say, Group Manager Burdes would be one of those officers who would be in that vehicle with a police officer. And what they'll do is they will, in an unmarked car, they will be on communications with our control room, and they will take calls about effectively triaging calls, because we won't and can't go to every call that comes in because of the volume. But what we have is we double the number of staff in our control room. We make sure we've got more command officers in there as well. And with the presence of the people in the cars unmarked, we will say we've had a report of a fire in a particular area. We will deploy them discreetly to say, well, it is a fire we need to attend. It's affecting property. It's creating harm. It's creating risk. But we do that sitting with a police officer in the car, where we can be in contact between the police command room, our command room, control room. We also use access to CCTV where we have that. So at the minute we have that certainly through Sunderland and Newcastle, and it would be something I'd be delighted to explore in other areas. But what we do is we heighten our presence in the community in the days and weeks leading up to bonfire night. On the night itself, we ensure that all crews every pump is fully crewed. If we think it's a particularly dry spell, we'll bring on additional resources, and in our control room, we'll double staff it. And we'll put police officers along with fire officers in cars who will go and triage that. We found that to be highly effective. I understand at times people will phone repeatedly to say, you're not coming to put the fire out. We take a judgment call along with partners to say there is possibly more risk of causing more unrest by attending than there would be by standing off and watching some rubbish in a field burning, notwithstanding I can understand the alarm it might cause. Councillor, I hope that addresses the question.
Councillor Lilly.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for your presentation. Very interesting. And can I also just say that my grandson actually thoroughly enjoys the fire cadet sessions at Tynemouth Station. He regularly attends on a Thursday night. He looks forward to it tremendously. I understand the rationale you've given for the decision to close Wallsend Station during the night, but can you guarantee that the hours of Tynemouth Station will remain the same?
Chair, thank you. Councillor, thank you for the question and thank you for the feedback on your grandson. I'm delighted that it's something that he enjoys. There is no plans in relation to Tynemouth Station or indeed any other station across the service at this time to move to day crewing. What I can say is that we regularly review our community risk management plan, and the latest version will be coming out for consultation very soon, which will give every resident and council member the chance to have a look at that. We have no plan, this is a spoiler alert I guess, there is no plan going to come forward on that to propose any day crewing or change to the crewing systems as they are now. So in summary, councillor, there is no plan for Tynemouth Station to move to day crewing or indeed any other, but we do use the data and intelligence and like everybody else, we plan well ahead for the budgets and we work within our means, but there is no plan and there's nothing in my immediate mind that would tell me that I should be alerting you otherwise.
Councillor Wallace.
Thank you, Chairman. Reference was made in the presentation to the fire cadets. I wonder if you could give us more information about that, please. There's often concerns that there are insufficient opportunities for young people to expand their knowledge and experience, so some more information would be helpful, please.
Thanks, Chair. Thank you, Councillor. The fire cadets, so we have a programme that we build on, and it's a UK-wide programme, and certainly there's a curriculum that's approved. So the curriculum that the fire cadets that they work to is an approved curriculum that's worked through the National Fire Chiefs Council, which has come up with a set of things that would be good for young people to be involved in, and they've been accredited against youth education and effectively what good citizenship would look like. We apply that and we bring people through. The challenge we do have, like everybody, is that they operate on about a dozen at a time in a unit. And of course, you can only bring new people on when some people leave. So when they reach 18, typically at 60, they can become instructors if they would like, and they can hang on for a couple of years, but they will have to leave at some point. So there is a capacity issue across all of them, not necessarily in Tynemouth. We have cadet units across the whole of the Tynemouth area with the exception of Gateshead, but in our current community risk management plan, there's a plan to put that in. But we have a capacity that we have an amount of funding that we have for that. We're fortunate that we have somebody, a gentleman called John Anderson, who's an ex-headmaster, who we recruited specifically to go and find us the cash, and he knows how to write the bids. That's dramatically helped. So the units are full at capacity. We do have an issue where somebody has to leave before somebody else comes in. I'd love to stand here and say I'm going to expand it exponentially, but it would be reckless of me to do so because I need to make sure that what I'm doing is balanced against the affordability. So it's there. We're going to continue it, but there is a capacity issue, not just in North Tyneside. It's an issue across the whole borough, the whole of the area. And I'm sorry if it doesn't give you maybe the answer you want, Councillor, but it's the honest answer.
Thank you so much for your presentation. I just wanted to find out about your response times, especially in terms of for bonfire night. How quick can you be able to save a life? Because in terms of what happened in the Meadowell, was there a way or is there a plan that we can be able to prevent things like that happening and having casualties or people getting injured really quickly? Are you not really well staffed, or what is the situation and how can we prevent this?
Chair, for me, thank you, Councillor, for the question. There's a lot in there. Can I start by offering the assurance that across the whole of Tynemouth we are 24 hours a day, every day of the year, we have all our appliances available to go where they're needed. So we will mobilise quickly. I say with some pride that, and I accept that our geography helps us ever so slightly, but we are the fastest responding fire and rescue service to life risk fires in the UK. And that's not just me saying it, you can look that up. That's a matter of that. If you go to ONS, the national statistics would say that. I offer that as some reassurance that we are exceptionally fast. The national average for a response to level 1, which is typically life risk fires, where there is a life at risk, is running at something like 8 minutes 43 for England. And our response time is somewhere about 6 minutes. But I have to say there are some areas where we achieve far less than that. To your specific question, again, the detail around Meadowell, I'd be happy to pick up outside it, but there is work where we see issues happen, and there are groups who are continually looking and say, and I know through sort of the mayor, looking at what can we learn and how can we apply any learning from what went well or what maybe could have been better for the next time. We're very well versed and experienced as a partnership working with local communities, and there's always areas we can do better on. But I think you can be reassured that there is a strong approach to how we continually work with communities to try and reduce the impact of bonfires in this particular time or antisocial behaviour in and around fire setting. In terms of life risk, what we have is in bonfire night particularly, we will triage fires. So if we think there's a fire in open, through that arrangement where the fire officer and the police officer will go in a vehicle and quietly look, that's a triage. But if we get a call that says there is a life at risk, there is a fire in a house, we don't triage that. We immediately dispatch an appliance and they go to that address. So what we triage in terms of whether we go or not is where somebody has had eyes on a fire that says, yeah, it might be a nuisance, but it's a small pile of rubbish in a field and we are inundated with other fires, so we'll triage that. But where there is any suggestion that there is a person reported that's in a structural fire, we don't hesitate, we don't triage, we respond, and the response times are extremely quick. And I say this with my fingers crossed. We're fortunate that the instances of severe injury and death are exceptionally low, and I hope I've not cursed that, but I'll hopefully offer you some reassurance, Councillor.
Thank you. That actually does conclude the 15 minutes. Sorry.
I don't have a question.
Sorry.
But what I would like to say is huge thanks to Peter Heath for coming tonight and telling us all about the fire service. I think a lot of us, we see a fire engine going past with its twos and blues going away, and we sometimes see them in the playground at school because they're very good at doing community stuff, Tynemouth Community Open Day. But what we don't see, thankfully, very often, is all the hard and dangerous work that these very brave firefighters do every day. So I would like, on behalf of all of us here, for you to take our thanks back to them. They keep us safe. They keep all the residents of North Tyneside safe. And I've seen some of the training that they do, and it's quite frightening, the things that they have to do, going up tall buildings, going under rubble where buildings have fallen down to rescue people. We don't see any of that, but that's what they do on a daily basis. So the nice things that we see, we're very grateful for, but we're even more grateful for things that they really do to keep us safe. And thanks to you, Peter, everything that you've done for us as your chief. Difficult times, difficult cultural times we've gone through, but thank you for everything. So.
Right, that concludes the presentation. We now go on to item 7, which is the council plan. I would invite the elected Mayor, Councillor Karen Clark, to move the report. Sorry.
Thank you, Chair. I'm very proud to introduce our new council plan for 2025 to 29. It's a plan that's been shaped by the voices of our residents, our communities, businesses and partners. This is a shared vision for an even better North Tyneside, one that builds on our rich heritage, strong communities and bright future. The report outlines how this plan was developed and sets out the priorities that will guide our work over the next 4 years. While we continue to operate in challenging financial conditions, I remain highly ambitious for our borough. The plan is bold. It's about creating opportunity, tackling inequality, and building neighbourhoods we're all proud to call home. At the heart of the plan are 5 key ambitions.
Firstly, better lives for all. We will work with our partners to tackle inequality at every level. We'll deliver services shaped by our communities and provide timely support to prevent hardship. This includes a modernised council tax support scheme, cutting bills for over 15,000 residents. Secondly, the best start in life. We launch Best Start Family Hubs, joining up health, parenting and education. We'll create clear pathways for school leavers to pursue their talents and step into fulfilling careers. Thirdly, places to be proud of will include keeping our streets clean, green and safe, responding to what residents tell us matters most. We'll expand recycling and reuse opportunities and invest in our beautiful green spaces. Fourthly, good work and economic growth. Supporting businesses of all shapes and sizes and continuing regeneration that's already transformed our borough. I'll champion good quality jobs and fair pay. We'll invest in skills and training to make North Tyneside a global leader in renewable energy and offshore wind. And fifthly, housing and neighbourhoods that enhance lives. We'll deliver 3,000 new homes on top of the 2,500 already committed to meet the needs of our growing communities. Libraries and leisure centres will remain open and we'll offer a vibrant mix of events and cultural experiences. We will invest an additional £2 million each year to fix roads and pavements. This plan builds on our values as a council and as a community. We're developing modern, fit-for-purpose services that offer excellent value for money and meet the needs of a changing population. North Tyneside Council will continue to listen, to care and to act, especially for those who need us most. I'm proud that this plan has been directly shaped by residents, the voluntary sector, our businesses and partners. Through our big community conversation, we've engaged with over 1,300 individuals and organisations, and their views have directly shaped this plan. The challenges our communities face are real, and so are their aspirations. And to meet those challenges and aspirations, we must continue to strengthen our partnerships locally, regionally and nationally. This plan is for everyone, every resident, every family, every visitor, every business, every new enterprise. From young people seeking opportunity to families wanting to grow to investors looking for a place to thrive. We will have support for our elderly residents when they need it and work with partners like Age UK to continue to create a borough that is proud to be age-friendly. We will support residents with a range of needs, especially the most vulnerable, throughout their lives. We will give them the skills, experience and confidence to live healthy, independent lives in our communities. Together, I know we can and we will make North Tyneside an even better borough. I ask Council to approve the recommendations set out in section 1.2 of the report. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, seconder.
Seconder reserved the right to speak, Chair.
Any questions or comments? Councillor John Johnson.
Thank you very much, Chair. So we spent Saturday having a look at this plan in quite a bit of detail. And honestly, it's so full of fine, fluffy words. We thought we were reading a John Lewis Christmas advert script at the time. But after spending a little bit more time, let's just say I'm not sure I'm any closer to really understanding what's actually going to happen in North Tyneside. Now, I'll give credit where credit's due. There's no shortage of words in the plan. Plenty of buzzwords like fairness, ambition and listening. But when you dig a little bit deeper, you'll find there's not much substance behind the rhetoric. No real details, no costings, no timelines, no measurable outcomes. It's a lot of paper, but not much of a plan. The Mayor keeps talking about working with partners and listening to residents. But let's be honest, genuine consultation isn't about just making promises. It's about actually engaging with the community. It's about getting to the heart of what matters, understanding real concerns and working together on real solutions. It's not enough to just say you're listening. You have to show it through action as well. And here's the problem under this administration. We're already seeing the result of a lack of genuine leadership. Instead of real change, we're likely to end up with higher council taxes, more wasteful spending on things that don't help the people who need it most, and a steady decline in public services. That's not progress, it's just more of the same. I say this with no pleasure. I know the Mayor personally, and I genuinely hope for fresh ideas, for a clear sense of a new direction. What we've been given is a plan that feels vague, lacks leadership, and doesn't address the real issues facing North Tyneside. Even when they do include figures in the plan, they don't hold up. Take the funding for roads and pavements, it's a real times cut. And the promise to build more housing, without proper support for already overstretched public services, that's just going to put, pile on more pressure. What we need is a plan that shows leadership, a plan that addresses the real needs of our communities, one that's backed up by meaningful consultation and action, not just a stack of papers full of empty promises. Let's be clear, this plan is more of the same from a clapped-out Labour administration that's completely failing to read the room. With local elections just around the corner in May, it's obvious that the people of North Tyneside are tired of being taken for granted. We deserve leadership that listens, acts and actually delivers. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, Chair.
Thank you. Thanks, Councillor Johnson, I think. Well, firstly, the plan is highly ambitious, actually. And if you take that together with the context in which we're operating, which is one of increasing needs and demands on our services and budgetary pressures, we do have carefully costed budgets. We do have carefully drawn out plans. This is a strategic plan as well, you know. It therefore is broad. And the themes within the plan are deliberately broad because each year there will be an implementation plan sits beneath that. Each year, the plan will be tied up and linked closely to the council budget. Council budget, which I hasten to add, the Conservatives have failed to submit a council budget for as many years as I can remember. So it's easy to sit there and talk. You're the one talking rhetoric. You're the one living in fantasy land, making false promises to residents without acknowledging the constraints of the current context and the real financial pressures local authorities across the country are facing, largely due to the, in fact, largely, fully, I would argue, due to the former Conservative government, 14 years of the Tory government and the massive cuts to local authority budgets. And we're still continuing to deliver high quality, award-winning services here in this borough to our residents. Thank you.
Councillor Bones.
Thank you, Chair. I want to focus on just one section of the council plan, which is the places to be proud of section. When I saw the title, I'll admit I got quite excited because people in our borough are fiercely proud of where they're from, and quite rightly. But it's up to us as a council to make sure that the places themselves actually resemble that sense of pride, which is why this plan, if you can call it a plan, is such a missed opportunity. In fact, it's not really a plan at all. It's more a Pinterest board of aspirations without any real detail in it. Beautiful landscapes, cleaner streets, safer neighbourhoods, all sounds lovely, but there's just one problem. None of it actually exists in the real world, and under this mayor, nor will it. Residents don't want glossy language about beautiful places. They want their potholes fixed. They want pavements that don't resemble assault courses. They want fly tipping dealt with. They want antisocial behaviour tackled, and they want a tip within reasonable distance of their house. But instead, we get more of the same. We're promised a zero tolerance approach to antisocial behaviour, and that would be fantastic if it existed. But it isn't a plan, it's an empty platitude. A real plan would include measures to make it happen. More CCTV, metro barriers, community wardens, actual enforcement action, not just words on a page. Instead, we get vague ambition, but that's hardly surprising from this mayor. And then there's the new tip. Still no location, still no plan, still no funding. Meanwhile, thousands of residents in Killingworth are terrified they'll wake up one day to find it dropped on their doorstep. Yet the plan doesn't mention them at all. Apparently the mayor is listening to residents, but it looks like she's got them on mute. We also get food waste collections. That's great, except that's a national requirement, not a local achievement. This was a Conservative plan from a Conservative government, which the mayor has rebranded as her own. She hasn't just copied someone else's homework, she's stolen the entire workbook and handed it in as original. And on the point about potholes, Councillor Johnson rightly said this isn't an extra £2 million. The Mayor, as usual, is trying to pull the wool over our residents' eyes. It was an extra £2 million when it was first introduced under the previous Mayor. It's now the same £2 million every year. And with inflation, which is out of control under this Chancellor, the alleged investment is actually a real terms cut to roads and pavements funding. But then again, the Mayor admitting that she's cutting the roads and pavements budget probably wouldn't look great in this glossy booklet. Chair, North Tyneside really can be a place to be proud of, but it takes more than marketing spin and buzzwords. And it certainly takes more than a 28-page exercise in fiction, which is all this plan is good for. Residents won't be proud until this council stops describing improvements and starts delivering them. Thank you.
Councillor Lilly. You did indicate to speak. I don't know if you still want to. It's quite all right.
Sorry, Chair. Didn't think it was my turn. The council intends to offer the best start in life for our residents, which will chime with every parent's aspirations for their children. But let's just look a little beneath the surface of this claim. How does closing the library in Tynemouth and then removing the library bus assist in this aim? How can the council claim to be supporting world-class education when they are looking to close 5 schools across the borough, with the remaining schools' class sizes increasing with a consequential effect on the quality of the teaching provision? How does reviewing and improving sixth form provision sit with the closure of Monks Eaton High School? Where is the existing sixth form provision and what spare capacity is there within the sector? Are we expecting our sixth formers to travel the length and breadth of the borough and increase costs to obtain the education they require? What we need for young people is real opportunities, especially in the light of the government making young people much more expensive to hire with the jobs tax and the increase in the minimum wage. Even the left-wing Resolution Foundation has stated that this big increase in the minimum wage will be counterproductive, with fewer young people being offered, being offered new employment. It's okay for people already in employment, but
sorry, Councillor, can you keep the plan?
Well, that is the plan. Because it is. No, but the council cannot.
Sorry, Councillor.
Well,
just
you know,
keep the plan.
You should control the meeting, shouldn't you? Stop them rambling on.
I would be able to control the meeting if
We
we
need
kept
to
to the
find
point,
meaningful
Councillor.
apprenticeships.
Councillor,
Skills partnerships and routes into good jobs. What we do not need is another round of reviews and conversations. Nothing in this section has been costed and there are no start dates. What we do not need are platitudes and a relaunch of existing services. We need action and not words. Thank you.
thank you. I haven't had any other. Sorry.
Thank you. I'll just respond to a couple of points.
Sorry,
there.
point of order, Chair. The Mayor's already spoken in this debate.
Sorry.
Councillor Ross, I believe you indicated.
Thank you, Chairman. I agree with the comments of Councillor John Johnson that a lot of this is very woolly. Indeed, it's a fair recital of motherhood and apple pie with which it's difficult to argue. However, I would like specifically to focus upon the forward which has been put before us tonight, the forward written by the Mayor, in which he says, we are working in the context of tighter finances. I've listened to residents who tell me they are still feeling the effects of rising costs, and she's just referred a few moments ago to budgetary pressures. I suggest, Chairman, that the Chancellor of the Exchequer made things a whole lot worse yesterday by ensuring that all our residents will have significantly less of their earnings to retain. Many people spend their money in the borough. They're supporting our local businesses, the clubs, societies, whatever. We as a borough will lose out because of that lack of spending power, which the Chancellor has now ensured is inflicted upon us all. And indeed, following from the yesterday's budget, we have much lower growth forecasts, which similarly will have an impact upon this borough. I suggest, therefore, that the Mayor should rewrite her forward to reflect those circumstances. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Pickard.
Thank you, Chair. Didn't intend to come in at first, but listen to what we've heard before. It shows that Councillor Johnson's never learned anything all the time he's been on the council, in the fact that this is a high-level plan that then sets into place, once the council's agreed it, the policy of the council running forward for the next 4 years in implementation. I mean, if we look at the papers themselves, modernise the council tax support scheme, it's on the agenda tonight, or has he not read the next papers on? The issue of tackling poverty, well, we have the Poverty Intervention Fund in additional to the household funds that the government provides. They were actually working with the people who are in poverty in the borough, supporting those for needs and care. Well, you know, the 2/3 of our council budget is spent on adults and children's services. Children's services itself has had over a 50% increase in its budget over the last 3 or 4 years to meet the rising demand for children's services. It says here, supporting people as close to home as possible. Well, you'd have heard that one placement costs us £1.2 million equivalent a year. Other ones costing £1 million a year. That is the one why we need the budgets putting forward. And as was said by the Mayor, you never even bother putting budgets forward. But when you do, you're quite in favour of spending more money, but not in favour of voting for the resources to actually implement those policies that you want to put forward. I mean, finally, if I must say about the sixth form college, I mean, they have to travel across the borough. Well, where do you think they are now? They're having to travel, the majority of them, to Newcastle and Gateshead to get the qualifications, and they can't get the full range of A-level qualifications that actually need to go on to university. That's why we're looking at that whole issue and why we want to make sure we get a sixth form college, not to prop up an empty school somewhere else, but in the middle of North Shields, in the area that the people work in and the area where the children already go to school. For you to say that, you know, surplus places, well, look around, there isn't any surplus places in the other sixth forms. If you look how full they are, they can't do it, including King's Priory, which actually upset the whole of the educational planning in that particular area. You know, so we need to work with the schools, we need to work with the colleges so that we can provide exactly the same opportunities for the sixth forms and the post 16-year-olds in North Shields as the sixth form in Whitley Bay. And unless we do that, we'll always have a big gap in education. We'll also have a big gap in employment. And that's why we need this plan forward through tonight so we can actually continue with the good work we're doing.
Councillor Keith. Yeah. No. Councillor McAlpine.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to address the section of the council plan entitled Housing and Neighbourhoods that Enhance Lives. Labour's new housing targets will force our area to take thousands more homes on open green space with no infrastructure to support it. Nationally, Labour are removing the role of local planning committees and taking away residents' chance to have their say on their area. Me and my colleagues campaigned to protect the green belt, to prioritise brownfield sites and stop speculative development, especially at Merton Gap and Killingworth. This administration continues to push through these unpopular policies. As my colleagues have said, the £2 million a year for roads and pavements is a real terms reduction. It's been the same for years, so it's less than is being spent on roads than was in 2021. It won't fix the backlog, and residents will continue to dodge potholes for as long as Labour are in power in North Tyneside. And finally, claiming that libraries and leisure facilities will stay open is a promise this Mayor has already broken by abolishing the library bus and failing to get the Tynemouth Library project off the grounds. I can't see how this part of the Mayor's plan enhances the life of any of North Tyneside residents. Thank you.
Councillor Bartoli.
Thank you, Chair. One of the headlines is Better Lives for All. I think it's the first headline in the plan. And on paper, it sounds fantastic. A fairer, healthier borough, becoming a Marmot place, reforming council tax support, tackling poverty through early intervention. And I think it's probably presented as the Mayor's flagship ambition for the next 4 years. I think residents reading this and reading the recent slew of headlines that have come out of this council are going to be asking better lives for who? Because we can't talk seriously about better lives while ignoring the basics that actually shape people's daily experiences and the issues that all of our residents constantly raise with us. For example, crime and antisocial behaviour, unsafe streets, weak enforcement, fly tipping, overflowing bins, crumbling roads and pavements. These are the issues that residents raise with all of us constantly and are not niche and not minor. And for a lot of people, they are what makes their lives better. Yet in this plan, they barely feature. We do get warm words about fairness and health inequalities, but almost nothing concrete on antisocial behaviour, visible enforcement, or a serious programme to clean up and repair our neighbourhoods. Residents ask us for safer streets, tougher action on antisocial behaviour and proper enforcement so that they can feel safe. What this plan seems to offer is conversations, more partnerships and more working groups, but very little that will make the alley behind their houses cleaner, their walk home safer, or their streets feel more secure. The Mayor also talks a lot about fairness. She talks in the plan about tackling poverty and being a fairer borough. But this is the same administration that, despite us not producing a budget for her, has created a £9.5 million black hole all on her own, that's raised council tax by the maximum every year and plans to do so again, that's increased service charges again, including garden waste, that's threatened local services people rely on, including libraries and a programme of school closures. This is an administration that's cutting 200 jobs within the council, and all while giving themselves £130,000 worth of pay rises. I'm not sure this is the kind of fairness that residents really want. And you can't present yourselves as the anti-poverty champions in a glossy council plan, while you're simultaneously making it more expensive to live here and cutting the very services that support our vulnerable residents. That's not better lives for all, that's just higher bills for all. And if I can move on to the plan to become a Marmot place. Let's be honest, our residents did not wake up this morning facing the highest tax burden in over 40 years, worrying about whether North Tyneside should spend £150,000 of their tax to become a Marmot place. They worry about whether they feel safe on the metro, their bins get collected, or their kids' school stays open. Becoming a Marmot place for £150,000 of taxpayers' money while operating a £9.5 million black hole is not a policy. It feels like another vanity project. It might look good on paper, but if you look into the detail, there's no clear explanation of what will actually change on the ground, no obvious costs or benefits set out, and most worryingly, and again, we are spending £150,000 on an external consultancy when we have all the necessary skills and experience in-house to tackle poverty. This feels like nothing more than an expensive distraction. So my criticism of this section, The Better Lives for All, is it talks about fairness, but ignores the basics of safe, clean, well-maintained neighbourhoods. It talks about tackling poverty while pushing up council tax and charges and diverting £150,000 that could be used directly to tackle poverty to give to an external company to tell us how to tackle poverty. It talks about big national frameworks and Marmot badging, but doesn't set out concrete local measurable changes that residents will actually see. What residents don't need is another slogan or another glossy plan. They need us to fix the pavements, deal with antisocial behaviour, clean up the back lanes, keep local services open, and stop loading more and more costs onto their shoulders while lining their own pockets. Until this administration is prepared to prioritise those basics, Better Lives for All will remain exactly as it is in this document, a heading or a slogan and not a reality. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Thirlway.
Thank you, Chair. The Labour Party in North Tyneside's been in power since 2013, so that's 12 years, which is a long time in politics. I'm just wondering, why is there only 8 Tory councillors if the Labour Party is doing such a bad job at running the council?
Watch this space. Watch this space. You'll not be here next year.
You'll not be here next year.
Can we keep the meeting at order, please? And you can switch your mic off, please, Councillor Bartoli. Sorry, switch your mic off, please.
Sorry.
Councillor Sharp.
Hi, yes, sorry, it was it just sort of expanding on some of the points that have been raised. I noticed that Councillor Johnson and Councillor Bartoli have made lots of references to the increase in the councillor allowance, but they failed to acknowledge that the increase also came to the Leader of the Opposition and I think the Deputy as well, which was a significant rise. So I think it's only fair and proportionate that when they're sharing, certainly for the school children who were here earlier on about a balanced view, it wasn't just certain cabinet, it wasn't just the cabinet members and the deputy mayor that received an increase. It was yourselves as well.
Thank you. John Harrison.
Thank you, Chair. I do listen with interest at the opposition there coming forward with, and I would just say it's criticism and moans, which you're entitled to do. But a party that has never actually put any viable alternatives, in other words, a budget forward, I think since 2020, it's ridiculous for them to come here and make those criticisms, because those criticisms are just like empty vessels. You're not actually coming forward with anything viable in there.
Chair, this is meant to be a discussion about the plan. I think this just sounds like a criticism of us.
Chair, can you please ask?
We were pulled up.
I was going to say, yeah, we were talking about the budget yesterday. That's, you weren't talking about the plan. So we're responding, responding to the plan. So,
well, they don't like it, do they?
Sorry.
They don't like it. But the reality is, they're afraid to come forward and put their colours to the mast on how they would manage the difficult situation.
Councillor Bartoli, can you just keep out of this debate at this moment in time, please?
Well, a little bit wrong up, like, aren't they? Yeah.
What is your point of order?
Chair, we were rightly criticised for straying off the topic, and the topic is about the council plan. Councillor Harrison is addressing us and what we should be doing. He's not talking about the plan in front of us. So I'd like just the same standards to be applied to that side as is applied to this.
Well, the standards do apply. I will move on to that, Chair. But the reality is it's easy to come here and make criticisms, you know, about the various things, whether it's a council plan or whether it's managing, if you want, the difficulties within budget. But I've never seen them come forward in a lot of years with anything viable. And it's similar to the council plan. Councillor Pickard's right. This is in a wider plan that needs to be worked on and built up on. Also, I'm very clear what my responsibility would be within this plan regarding building houses for the communities of North Tyneside. And that's not just getting confused with the local plan, which is, if you want, a legal requirement for us to actually develop. This is extra money being put in to build the houses for people out there who are actually demanding them, their increased need for housing and social housing in North Tyneside. So that is using the housing revenue account to build those houses. So we're moving on from the 2,500 to 3,000. So clearly there is a commitment to be able to do that. Now, we didn't just come forward. I didn't just come forward with that. That was done through consultation and discussions with the tenants and the other residents within North Tyneside to come forward with those numbers. So it is important that we understand that once we develop this plan, there is also a need to ensure that we will put the targets within there. And I'm giving you some clear targets that I consider is a responsibility, and I have known that we have to deliver within North Tyneside. So whether it's derelict garage sites or actually dealing with derelict properties, but it's all it's dealing with that or trying to meet a need where there's more homeless in North Tyneside. That is part of this plan. All those fit into those headlines that you want to say about that. So better lives is certainly, for me, is giving people in North Tyneside better homes to live in. Homes that where the roof's not leaking, homes that they can afford, and certainly homes that they can bring their families up. but also better lives, if you want, in employment and opportunity, is about ensuring that when we're building those homes, we're bringing along apprenticeships, and we're also taking on board, if you want, the local community in the local building and the community within that. So that is contributing to the community of North Tyneside, it's contributing to the finances of North Tyneside, but it's also giving people jobs, apprenticeships, and making things better for them in North Tyneside. So there's a number of things in there which will link up. So I am quite clear what my responsibility under this plan is to do. It's to certainly build those homes, help develop our communities, help, if you want, create employment and make North Tyneside that better place. And that's it.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Carl Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. 5th, 3rd and 3rd. The election results of the North Tyneside Conservatives and John Johnson said, watch this space the last time. The Conservatives opposition has finished in North Tyneside. Their plans are rejected time and time again. So what they have to resort to is shouting from the sidelines. No plans, no ideas. They haven't submitted a budget since 2020-21, when they wanted to flag off our airport at an all-time low cost during the COVID pandemic. They have, at this plan has been to scrutiny twice. The Conservatives have seats on the scrutiny committee. Have they proposed any amendments at the scrutiny committee? No, they have not. Again, shouting from the sidelines, not willing to take the tough decisions that these residents need. Councillor Brian Smith and the Reform Party are coming for your seats, you know, no matter how right-wing the Conservative officers wish to get. This is a plan by the Mayor delivered directly from her election manifesto, which she was elected to ahead of both Reform and the Conservatives in a distant third. This is a plan that will build on 12 years of Labour administration in North Tyneside, delivering for our borough. An extra £2 million of roads in the roads and pavements every year, on top of the already increasing funding that we've seen since the Labour government came into place. The reduction in funding by the last Tory government in the roads and pavements budget was the single biggest cut in roads and pavements budgets around. Since we've been in power, we're putting an additional £2 million a year in. Since Kim McGuinness has been a regional mayor, she's adding 7% to the budget. And since the Labour Party have been in government, they're adding even more money on top of the roads and pavements budget. Not shouting from the sideline, actions. We will build a borough that we can be proud of. We are proud of this borough. This borough stands out regionally as a borough delivering ahead of the regional average on almost every metric. You know, talk about putting the burden on residents. In 2013, when we came into power in this borough, the grant from central government made up about 60% of the funding. And over the next 11 years of Conservative government, they've changed the burden of council tax from the government straight on to the people of North Tyneside. That was the Tory government burdening council tax residents with their council tax pay for our own services. Our plan is there, it is common sense, and we will deliver as we always have for this borough. Residents supported this plan because they know we will deliver. We've delivered regeneration, we've ensured village centres and libraries are safe, we've delivered outstanding children's services, good adult social care. We continue to deliver this borough and we will deliver this plan, which is common sense and deliverable.
Councillor Early.
Thank you, Chair. We've heard a lot of criticism from the opposition saying that this is a plan that's just pie in the sky, that it's just fancy words, when in fact, if you look at the plan, it actually builds on many of the achievements that we've already made as a Labour council in the last 13 years. In children's services, we are an outstanding Ofsted rated children's services, and we have been for the last 6 years, one of the few local authorities in the country to have outstanding in every category. And the Best Start in Life section of this plan describes how we're going to build on that by bringing more of our children in care into homes in the community. And we are already doing that. We are already out of consultation on a new children's home in North Shields. And that has costed if they care to look at that, they will see where the money's coming from that. So there's a development where this plan promises to build on achievements that we've already made. In terms of antisocial behaviour, I believe that there has been a 28% reduction in instances of antisocial behaviour across the borough in the last 12 months. But we're not satisfied with that. And our commitment here is to work with the police and our community protection team to reduce antisocial behaviour even further. So again, we're not just making empty promises, we're building on what we've already achieved. In terms of housing, we are going to, we've already committed to building 2,500 homes, and we're going to commit to building a further 3,000. So again, we're building on an achievement that we've already made. So these are not empty promises. They are not fancy words. They are measures to take us forward from a position where we've already achieved so much for the residents of North Tyneside. And this plan looks at how we can build on and develop those achievements even further. And my colleague, Councillor Johnson, is absolutely correct. If we've been doing such a bad job, why are we sitting here with 50 Labour councillors and a newly elected Labour mayor who has hit the ground running, has been out to consult with residents about what they want us to take forward, and the consultation that members opposite have steered at is exactly what we should be doing as a council. We should be talking to our residents, and I really don't understand the references to wasting money on talking to partners and businesses, because that's exactly what we need to be doing in order to develop this plan and to implement it. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Hannah Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. This plan absolutely follows exactly what the residents of North Tyneside voted for following the election last year. It was very clear in the Mayor's manifesto that we have made these commitments and that we are following through. With regards to highways in particular, part of the issue, well, a lot of the issue that we've had with the highways over the past few years has been down to an absolutely appalling outsourcing contract that was put together by the previous Tory administration that we made a decision as a Labour council to come out of. Seeing that since then, I personally have had a number of residents, councillors speaking to me about the fact that how we've seen the service improving. We've also had an extra 1.25 million added to our block grant from the government. We've worked with the Labour government to get 1.25 million as well for extra pothole funding. As we said, we've committed to continue to spending the extra £2 million from the council money, and we have received money from the North East Combined Authority. So we are working with partners across the region and across government as well to make sure that that service is as good as it possibly can be. The fact as well that we have still kept leisure centres and libraries in council control, which is absolutely what the Mayor is very clear at the election was going to happen. It's a testament to the fact that the officers that work for those services work incredibly hard to make them appealing to our residents, to make them accessible to residents, particularly when it comes to the library service. And it is a commitment that we are going to follow through with as a Labour administration to make sure that they are still run by the council. Thank you.
Councillor Graham.
Thank you, Chair. If members would like to have a look back at Cabinet meeting on Monday night, where this plan was presented to Cabinet, and see how Dawn McNally from Age Concern was so enthused by the plan and so complimentary about how this would help older people. And remember, we have an ageing population within our borough. And also our Youth Parliament member, who has been speaking in Parliament and has been really happy to represent North Tyneside and happy as a youth council to add their voice in a meaningful way to the plan. I think the other side would be ashamed if they actually watched that. Thank you.
Right, I haven't seen any more indications to speak, therefore I'll move to the vote if that's okay. Right. Right, sorry, after the right to reply from the Mayor.
Thank you, Chair. I think those points have been covered by colleagues. I have to say the comments from the Conservatives to me reflect a total lack of knowledge and understanding of the way the council works. I mean, maybe a briefing session might be a good thing for them so they can connect things up. I'm just going to make a couple of points on schools. We are charged with ensuring a viable, sustainable education system, both now for the children of today and for the children of the future. We cannot ignore problems, issues and challenges, and we can't bury our head in the sand and hope things will just go away and resolve themselves. So on that level, we're taking our responsibilities seriously, but we are listening to the responses from parents, as is evidenced in the actions relating to Langley First School. Secondly, in relation to the comments made about a Marmot borough, a Marmot place, people dying significant number of years sooner than the more wealthy neighbours might be vanity to you lot over there, but I can assure you it's not vanity to me. I'll do everything within my power to close that gap on health inequalities, to improve people's health, to improve people's life expectancy, and shame on you making comments like that. Or is it a fact again that you simply don't understand what you're talking about? Being a Marmot Place is a whole system approach, so it covers all those 5 ambitions in the plan. It's about environment, neighbourhood, schools, education, jobs, income. Go and do some reading and then come back and we'll have a conversation. Thank you. Let's go to the vote.
Chair, the Mayor should retract the term the Mayor should retract the term
Councillor,
you lot.
I haven't
We are
indicated,
not a lot.
I have
We are
not indicated for you to speak, so will you turn your mic off? Thank you, Councillor.
I'll rephrase it. You Conservatives over there. Apologies.
Right, we are moving to the vote.
I'll open the vote, please. Can you please all vote now? If everybody's voted, I'll close the vote.
That's 43 for, 1 abstention and 7 against. And I'll move on to item 8, which is the review of council tax support scheme, pages 93 to 208. Can I ask Councillor McMullen to move the recommendations set out in the report?
Thank you, Chair. I'm sorry about how fast I'm going to do this, since I was told it had to be very inefficient in the last item on the agenda. Council will know how important it is that the authority supports its most vulnerable residents. Part of our strategy to reduce poverty whilst also delivering good value for money is by spending responsibly and targeting our limited resources to support those residents who are least well off. That is why I'm pleased to present this report to Council, which outlines the proposal to how we best help the most financially vulnerable working aged households pay their council tax, whilst at the same time use our money effectively. Council will note that the proposals are only for working age, as the scheme for pensioners is a national scheme and no changes are proposed. The proposed working age council tax reduction scheme outlined in this report and appendices follows a consultation exercise that Cabinet approved on the 23rd of June 2025. This took place until the 10th of August with the public and the major precepting authorities, who are the Police and Crime Commissioner and the Tyne and Wear Fire Authority. We used a variety of ways for people to give their views throughout the consultation period, and I'm pleased to say the majority of those were in favour of the proposed banded scheme and the other changes being proposed. The scheme is being proposed is similar to what is already in place for many authorities across the country and regionally. The majority of local authorities have either moved to a banded scheme or planning to do so in future years. The proposed scheme has many elements, both new and carried over from our current scheme, that helps those on low incomes pay their council tax. It means our lowest income households receive the most support and would not have to pay anything. It will be easier for people to understand whether they qualify, and it will smooth out multiple changes that have in those who are claiming universal credit often see, which makes it hard to budget. It will be much more efficient to administer, providing the authority with opportunities to save money by reducing the number of bills issued, and also will lead to more administrative savings over time. As part of the scheme, there will be an exceptional hardship fund, and claimants to this fund who are suffering exceptional hardship will be supported to access a full range of support and advice that authority has to offer, as well as through our partners. I would like to ask the council to agree the recommendations to the proposed scheme for working age claimants so that it can be implemented from the 1st of April 2026.
Thank you, Councillor. Do you have a seconder?
Second, reserve the right to speak, Chair.
Now invite members to speak to the report. We'll go to the vote.
And open the vote now, please. Members all, please vote. If all members have voted, I'll close the vote.
That's unanimous. Thank you very much. That moves us on to item 9, changes of committee allocations and other matters in relation to political groups, pages 209 to 214. Can I ask the elected mayor to move the recommendations set out in this report?
Thank you, Chair. Council has asked to note the appointment of a new leader and deputy leader of the Conservative group. Leaders of the political groups are requested to inform the monitoring officer by 12 noon tomorrow if they wish to make any changes to nominations of members to any committees or subcommittees. I ask Council to note and agree the recommendations as set out in section 1.2 of the report. Thank you.
There's a seconder for that. Yep. Councillor Johnson, thank you. And I ask members if they want to speak to this report. Therefore, we'll move to the vote. Thank you.
Open the vote. If all members have voted, I'll close the vote.
Again, that's unanimous. That takes us to item 10, the motions. We have 2 valid motions. They've been received and included in the agenda. The details of the legal and financial implications of each of the motions have been circulated to all members prior to the meeting. I would like to remind members that the electronic voting system is available. Motion 1, can I invite Councillor O'Keefe to move the motion?
Thank you, Chair. I hope we can all this evening agree to this motion in requesting that we write to the government about restricting the sale of fireworks to the general public, because the current situation is putting both residents and animals across North Tyneside at unnecessary risk. Every year, residents, vulnerable people, families and pet owners brace themselves for weeks of unpredictable, often antisocial behaviour or criminal firework use. That causes real fear. By calling for tighter controls and ensuring fireworks are only used in organised, properly managed displays, we can help protect the well-being of our communities and create a safer, kinder environment for everyone who calls North Tyneside home.
Yeah, a seconder. Councillor Thurley.
Thank you, Chair. When I was growing up, Bonfire Night was a one-day event, but now fireworks are set off weeks before and weeks after the 5th of November. I think most people would accept the issues caused by fireworks if they were confined to a few days in the year. But every year, the use of fireworks starts sooner and ends later. We have now got to the point in this country where Bonfire Night seems to last nearly a month instead of just one night. For me, this is the reason why I'm supporting this motion. The society is judged by how it treats the most vulnerable members, and for the people and animals impacted by fireworks, we can end yet weeks of misery. This motion isn't about spoiling people's fun or standing on tradition. It's about finding a compromise that works for everybody. Thank you.
I now invite members to speak to the motion. There's no indication to speak, therefore I let the move on the motion to have the right of the right of reply, sorry. There you go, we're just going to
Open the vote.
Well done.
All members have voted. Just to vote, Councillor McAlpine. I'll then close the vote. Chair, it's 45 for, 6 abstentions and 2 against.
That's 45 for, 6 abstaining and 2 against. So the motion is carried. Thank you. Now move on to motion 2, which is a garden waste services. Can I invite Councillor Bartoli to move the motion?
You need a second there. The motion tonight is about something very simple. Whose side are we on when money is tight? The residents who pay the bills or the politicians who make the decisions? The council papers we've all received recently set out a very stark picture. We're facing a projected £9.8 million overspend this year. And in response, the administration has chosen a package of measures which have included proposed school closures and mergers, the scrapping of the library bus, the loss of around 200 staff positions, and now an increase in the charge for the garden waste, the brown bin service, to raise about £150,000 more from residents. At exactly the same time, Labour councillors unanimously voted to award themselves huge pay increases, 235% pay rises for cabinet members and 85% for the deputy mayor, costing the taxpayers around £130,000 a year. So what that means in practice for residents is schools closed or under threat. Just look at the strength of feeling we've had here tonight in the chamber. The library bus gone, hundreds of jobs lost, bills and charges going up for ordinary families. What does it mean for the party opposite and the political leadership? Massive pay rises, a civic car and business as usual. If you try to design a decision that looked more out of touch, you could hardly do better or worse than this one. The look is terrible. Residents know it, staff know it, and frankly, many councillors on the Labour benches know it too, even if they dare not say it. This is not rewarding success, it's rewarding failure, and you're sending the bill to our residents. We've been told repeatedly there's no alternative, that the financial situation is so dire we have to cut services, close schools, hike charges. But this motion puts a very obvious alternative on the table. That's to reverse the increase in the garden waste charge from 27/28 and to fund it by reversing the decision to increase members' allowances and by scrapping the civic car. In other words, if someone has to tighten their belt, let it be us, not the people we serve. Now, because of our procedures, we cannot unwind their decision for this current year. We can't flick a switch tonight and instantly roll back their pay rises and the brown bin charges for this budget. But we can do 2 very important things tonight. We can set a clear direction that from 27/28, this council will not fund its overspend by hammering residents while protecting politicians. And we can send a message to residents that we've heard them and that we accept that this looks wrong and we're putting it right at the earliest possible opportunity. Residents reading the Chronicle recently have read some of the following headlines. North Tyneside Council closes schools, library bus scrapped, charges up again, North Tyneside Council face 30 million black hole, and then Cabinet gives itself 235% pay rise. Put those things together and they draw a simple conclusion. This council is not only financially asleep at the wheel, but its first instinct of the administration is to protect itself, not its residents. So tonight is really a test. If you believe it's wrong to hike charges on residents while keeping £130,000 of new pay rises, then support this motion. If you believe councillors should lead by example and share in the pain of residents, support this motion. If you claim to empathise with parents whose schools are under threat, with families paying more for less and with staff facing redundancies, then show it in the most basic way possible. Put their interests ahead of your own and support this motion. This is about fairness, about priorities and about trust. If we want residents to believe anything we say about listening and putting them first, then this is the minimum step we should be willing to take. Chair.
You have a seconder?
Chair, reserve the right to speak.
Chair,
Councillor Franklin.
I've tabled an amendment, Chair, which should be with legal there.
Bit of look.
Do you have a seconder for your amendment, councillor? Do you have a seconder? Yep. But that's it. Thank you.
Chair, can I just ask a question of the monitoring officer? I take it you've reviewed this and you don't think this negates the...
Chair, I'm sorry, I can't hear what's being said.
Sorry, councillor. I was just asking whether the monitoring officer had reviewed this previously and is satisfied that it doesn't negate the original motion, and he's indicated that it doesn't.
I can confirm for the monitoring officer to explain that decision for those who don't actually understand it.
If you give the monitoring officer a chance, I'm sure he will. Thank you, councillor.
Councillors, I have reviewed the proposed amendment and I've looked at the definition of what to negate a motion means, and as I've explained to members before, I always look at the definition from looking at another word, and it means to nullify the motion. And I don't think that the amendment as currently proposed nullifies the motion. It takes the motion in a different direction, but I can't say that it nullifies it. However, it is my role to give advice to the chair in terms of determining whether or not an amendment is correct or not. I have shared this with the chair in advance and gone through it with him, and it's his determination as to whether or not an amendment to a motion meets the requirements of the council's constitution. But my legal advice is such that I consider that it does.
Thank you. If everyone's had a chance to go through the amendment, I would ask Councillor Lott to move it.
Thank you, Chair. Throughout my working life, I was an active trade unionist. And so it would be no surprise to anyone that it's my belief that people should be paid a fair and competitive rate for their work. And this applies to our allowances just as it applies to the negotiated rate for any job. However, for the last 4 years, while we on this side supported the public sector unions representing junior doctors, nurses, care workers, bus drivers, and so on in their wage claims, we had a self-imposed freeze on our allowances. I just thought I should mention that because it wasn't mentioned earlier tonight in any of the comments, and it wasn't mentioned in the Tories' social media clip. I recall that we also froze the allowances for successive years in the previous decade, and that eventually resulted in our opportunistic opposition over there claiming that we were awarding ourselves a 24% increase. That was actually a clever mathematical manipulation of the fact that our allowances were only keeping up with the incremental increases over a number of successive years. The independent panel, if you've read the report, observed that continued freezing of the value of members' allowances may not serve the interests of the council in the longer term. Now, in this latest review, most of the independent panel's proposed increases in allowances are at best modest, and many will hardly be noticed. In fact, 6 special responsibility allowances will go down. And that wasn't mentioned earlier tonight, and it wasn't mentioned in the Tory social media clip. With regard to cabinet members' allowances, where we have seen the most significant improvement, a long overdue improvement, I'll add, even then, the recommended allowance is still among the lowest in councils in the northeast of England. Having been a cabinet member, I can vouch for the extra time required to properly carry out your duties. What many people don't know about, or simply choose to ignore for the convenience of their argument, is the extra duties that you're required to undertake. Representing North Tyneside on region-wide bodies, for example. In my time in the cabinet, I was also chair of transport for Tyne and Wear and deputy chair of transport North East, both with considerable levels of responsibility and both quite without financial recompense. Flipping the coin, can I just advise that if cabinet members had been paid at the recommended rate since the inception of the cabinet model, the cost to this authority would amount to £1,247,000. That's according to my figures. That's how much has been saved because of the low level of remuneration for cabinet members over the last years. And perhaps we should be thankful that the award isn't being backdated like so many others in the public sector. Also, let's not forget that for many in this room, the council allowance is their only form of income. Of course, some will argue that being a councillor should be a voluntary calling and that there should be no remuneration. Well, if you want to go back to the days of the town councils being populated by the wealthy and landed gentry, whose policies would serve to maintain their position in society at the expense of the less well-off, then prepare also for the return of the workhouse. Ideally, the whole issue of allowances should be taken out of our hands entirely and should be determined at a national level with a formula using agreed criteria such as population and a range of the prevailing socio-economic indicators to take account of the fact that all councils are inevitably different. The independent panel also said that we need to display a diversity which reflects the people we serve. I think, it's my opinion, we need more young people, we need more working class people if we are to achieve that rich and diverse elected membership the panel recommended. And before anyone says anything, I do acknowledge my own not insignificant contribution to the average age of members in this chamber. But we do need to ensure that potential financial hardship does not prevent anyone considering serving as a councillor. As for the section of the motion proposing the scrapping of the civic car, this simply demonstrates that the party opposite is as tin-eared or as hypocritical as ever it has been. They have only ever promised this when in opposition, they've only ever proposed this when in opposition and never when in power, and they have never identified or demonstrated the savings they allege could be made. The fact is that the civic car is practically efficient and financially sound. With regards to the garden bin charges, it should be recognised that the £30 charge was the cheapest, and the new increased charge at adding £5 more is still the lowest in the North East. Residents are able to dispose of garden waste in a variety of ways, including the recycling centre and in the home composting bins, which this council subsidises, or in their normal rubbish bin.
Sorry, councillor, you're approaching your 5 minutes, so if you could move along, please. Thank
Just
you.
approaching, right, thank you. The Neat Streets scheme offers council house tenants 2 free collections of bulk waste per year. This can be used for garden waste, and I'll bet that's 5 minutes, is it? That'll do. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Your seconder?
Happy to second. I shall limit to one comment, and that is that as long as the party opposite fail to be prepared to put forward an alternative budget to explain how their massive promises throughout the year, how their massive fine words on suggestion and how they would resolve these problems, until you're prepared to put through a full council budget, and you can have the support of all officers, as you know, to do that, then your words are waffle and meaningless. You need to put up or shut up.
Thank you. I'll now open to debate. Councillor Bones.
Thank you, Chair. It would always help if Councillor Samuel read the motion before he talked on it. I think what Councillor Samuel's failed to understand is this is a fully funded plan to get rid of the garden waste charge and at the same time freeze our allowances. Because why should our residents have to pay for his life of luxury? And it's no surprise Councillor Lott has put up a defence of his own allowance increase. After all, his household benefits significantly from the increase. So why does he feel our residents should have to pay for it? Councillor Lott says the allowance increase was recommended by a panel. He forgets that we in this chamber are the decision makers. If the independent panel told him to drive his car off a bridge, would he do it? I can understand that the Chancellor's kamikaze budget would have made that an appealing option for the party opposite, but even they don't follow recommendations blindly. This council could have and should have voted to freeze allowances, but they didn't. Let's be honest, brown bin charges are nothing more than a garden tax. Residents already pay some of the highest council tax bills in the region, and under this administration, they are paying more for essential services. We all know what happens when councillors increase these charges. Fly tipping goes up, recycling goes down, and the people who actually play by the rules end up paying twice. It's a tax on tidy gardens and a tax on doing the right thing. Residents aren't daft. They see exactly what this is. It's another cash grab to fill a hole so they can line their own pockets. Instead of squeezing families for every last penny, this council should focus on fixing its finances and give the money back to our residents. We won't be voting for this amendment. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Newman.
Thank you, Chair. Won't surprise anybody that I will be voting for this amendment, but I just want to say that I find myself a little bit disappointed with the level of debate that I've witnessed here. The things we debate in this chamber matter, and we owe it to the residents to treat each other respectfully, constructively, and not to use this forum as a platform for political games. And I just think we should be mindful of that. Now, we have to be honest, because we've spent a lot of time tonight debating financial difficulties, and we have to be honest about where they come from. Financial difficulties have not just arisen overnight or just from local decisions. They are direct consequences of the years of underfunding by the previous Conservative government. Now, I was going to say a little bit more on this, but it's been covered massively tonight, so I'm just going to skip over. But I just want to say that whilst we talk about the financial challenges we face, the party opposite needs to own austerity. Every single person on this side of the chamber will own the recent announcements on the two-child benefit cap. I'm confident that we will own that and own that for the next few years. And I'm always left disappointed that the group opposite seems to want to ignore austerity and its effect on this council. Yet, despite austerity, North Tyneside has constantly managed its finances responsibly. We have protected, we have invested, and we have delivered. And very importantly, we have delivered a balanced budget year after year, especially when no alternative has ever been presented to us. We have safeguarded frontline services. We've continued to invest in every part of the borough. However, like all authorities, we do offer a number of optional non-statutory services, and it is extremely important that these services are as self-financing as possible so that the income generated will help protect our frontline and statutory services. Now, I'm going to quickly go on to members' allowances. Now, I don't think I will ever match the elegance of Councillor Lott, but it is true that they were set, or so they were recommended by an independent remuneration panel. This is to ensure transparency, independence and public confidence. But the most important thing for me that we have to understand why those allowances exist. We must ensure that every single local office is accessible to everybody. There are millions of workers in this country earn minimum wage or just over minimum wage, especially within the retail sector. You know, the retail sector traditionally very underpaid. And I'm bringing that up because I'm pretty sure I've run into virtually every single person in this chamber in my place of work because I work within the retail sector. And it is important that every single person has the opportunity to engage within local democracy and represent the people of this borough. If we don't, we will end up in a council that no longer reflects the people that they represent. And that is why it is important. I strongly support the recommendations in the amendment because I strongly believe that for years, this vital element of local democracy gets hijacked for schoolyard political point scoring. And I wholeheartedly believe that we need to remove it and have allowances set at national level so that we can free ourselves from these debates. Members of this council, I will be voting in favour of the amendment because this amendment is about fairness, transparency and responsibility. It recognises what the pressures have been created by the last Conservative government. It celebrates the resilience of North Tyneside, but more importantly for me, it sets out practical steps to ensure confidence in our local democracy. Thank you.
Councillor Mudzingpa.
I just want to support the amendment because, honestly speaking, people who actually work, the work that we do is not actually voluntary work, it's actually work. If you really do your job, I'm taking for myself, I'm in the secure subcommittee as a deputy chair, I'm in the green committee, and then I'm in SACRE, and then I'm in Trading Standard Committee. And then you have a job to go to meetings and you have all the pages that you have to read if you are actually reading them. That's why they didn't have information because they don't. And then if you actually do the job, you actually see that this came actually a little bit too late. We should actually be rewarding people who actually do the job through these expenses because we stood up for nurses, doctors, and everybody else, and then leaving the people who actually do the work. People complain to councillors about everything else, and they think this is a full-time job, and yet it's not. So I will be supporting the amendment. Thank you.
Councillor Bailey, did you indicate to speak? Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm sadly trusting politics, institutions, even politicians is at a low point at the moment. And I suppose because of that, for the benefit of any of our residents watching this tonight or retrospectively, what I'd like to point out is that all of the council's finances, our balance sheets going right back to the last time we had a Conservative mayor in 2012 and beyond, up till today, are all publicly available. There is also a very handy calculator on the Bank of England's website that allows you to make that comparison between those figures then, when this council was under Conservative control, and now. What that shows is that the council's debt in real terms is a third less now than it was then. That's what prudent financial management looks like. That's come at the cost of some really hard choices made by our previous mayor, but I think we should be grateful for that. I appreciate that talking about figures in real terms can be quite difficult. I think one of the things that I will commit to do is to speak at the next audit committee and ask perhaps if there's ways that we can make it easier for the public to make that comparison. I would also encourage the Conservative group to re-engage with that committee, having failed to attend it for the last 3 meetings. You know, councillors' allowances are paid for a reason, and we really need all groups to be putting the work in. So I'll be supporting this motion. I also think we need to be working hard to increase public understanding. Thank you.
Councillor Thirlwell.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's really easy for the Conservative group to be against the decision to increase allowances. You know, I totally get the politics of it, but will they put their money where their mouth is? Will you refuse the allowance when it happens in April. There's a camera up there in the corner. This is your opportunity to tell your residents that you won't take the increase in April. You've got a new leader, perhaps he can do it. But this is your opportunity to refuse to take the increase. Put your money where your mouth is.
Councillor Lilly.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Lott must know that in mathematics, a 24% increase is still a 24% increase, whatever the base starting point. You can't deny that there was a 24% increase. So it's basic mathematics. The independent remuneration panel is advisory, not mandatory. So we have a decision to make in this council. We can decide what the allowances are. You can't throw it back to the independent panel. It is an advisory panel, not a mandatory panel. Because we are below others, it's not a valid reason for massive increases in allowances. It just doesn't stack up. And the optional non-statutory provision standard, which is standard across the country, Council Lott states that ours is the lowest in the region, but this year it is still a 16% increase on last year's cost. You talk about, in real terms, it's a 16% increase. And you say this is not financed. It is financed if you withdraw that 16% increase and overturn these ludicrously large allowances, it pays for itself. And at a time when our residents are having to tighten their belts as a result of Labour's catastrophic policies nationally, exampled in yesterday's budget, where people are being taxed more than ever, where local people are worried about jobs because of the jobs tax, where council debt is going up, where schools' budget deficits are going up, where schools are being closed, where council work people, council's own workforce, are waiting to see how many of them are going to lose their jobs. Job insecurity. This council will be going to charge for them to park their cars. It's increasing garden waste by 16%. It's increasing council tax by 5%. On top of this, it's awarding itself allowance increases of up to 235%. You couldn't make it up. It's immoral, it's obscene, it should be overturned. If members opposite had really thought this through, they would have voted against the original motion to agree these outlandish increases. But unfortunately, members opposite are told what to think and instructed how to vote. They don't have an independent thought amongst them. With our residents having to tighten their belts due to these economic decisions, they'll see through any Labour excuses. All they will observe is Labour councillors with their snouts deeper in the trough. Thank you, Chair.
Chair proposes to go to the vote. Propose that we go to a vote.
Chair, I've got the right to reply.
I do have to give Councillor Bartoli the right to reply on the motion.
When I brought the original motion in front of the council tonight, I finished up by saying if you believe it is wrong to hike charges on residents while keeping £130,000 of new pay rises, then support the original motion. Said this was a test. If you believe councillors should lead by example and share the pain of their residents, then support the motion. And if you claim to empathise with parents whose school are under threat, with families paying more for less and staff facing redundancies, then support the original motion. The party opposite have not just failed tonight's test, but they've rather shamelessly hid behind an independent panel rather than admitting to their own greed. It's shameful to hear that they can justify 235% pay rises for the cabinet whilst simultaneously taking some of the decisions which have affected our residents. I think in my time here in the council, that's been the most shameful decision I've watched this council make. And the fact that you sat there and tried to justify it this evening has frankly been, I think, one of the low points in my time in the chamber. But it's obvious that what's going to happen tonight, and it's clear where this motion's going.
We'll have to vote on the amendment.
Can members please vote on the amendment, please? Open the vote now. Close the vote now. The amendment's carried.
The amendment is carried 43 to 8, and now the amendment becomes the motion. Now, does anybody want to speak to the motion? I think I had Councillor Pickard has indicated.
And can we go straight to the vote?
Yeah, thank you. I would be supporting this motion. And in some of the instances that were quoted from the Tory opposition, I think Councillor Lilly said it was immoral that people are, because of the other party's national policies, that people are suffering hardship. I'll tell you why they're suffering hardship. Because it was immoral when you borrowed to give money away. During COVID, you borrowed so much that you put the country in a massive amount of debt, which is what's happened to be paid off now. And that's what's causing the financial problems we've got at the minute. I only replying to what you said, £1.4 billion was identified as fraud. Fraud. That's money taken away from the residents of North Tyneside and from the rest of the country, of which already 400 million has been identified, all by Tory supporters. And let's look at what they said in the resolution. The brown bins. Well, who was the first people that proposed an increase in the brown bins to start charges on? The last Tory cabinet. And we stopped it. And we've had 11 years without paying it, while every other council around us has. So we waited until the last moment before we had to start charging for the waste to actually go away. Libraries, who were the last ones to propose the closure of the libraries? The last Tory cabinet, many of which were still there. And I'd like to perhaps congratulate Councillor Bones on his new job. And if he thinks living on a councillor's allowance is a life of luxury, his taxpayers funded job must be actually the super luxury of a life of living. And no wonder he's got a big smile on his face when he comes into the council and doesn't need the leader's allowance anymore. So he's giving it away to his friend. So, I mean, when we talk about immoral and we talk about what we need to do, they've got the chance coming up soon to put their own budget in. And they can include how they're going to fund this, how are they going to fund all the things they've talked about tonight, how are they going to increase everything in line with inflation, and will we see what they actually do, or will they do the same? Will they come up and say they're in favour of virtue and against sin? In other words, they'll vote for loads of spending, and as I said before, forget to put their hands up when it comes to actually voting for the resources to deliver them. That's what the Tory party's like here. So don't lecture us about people in hardship. It's because of the fraud that was perpetrated on the people of this country by your government that increased the debt on this nation.
Councillor Wendy Lott.
Thank you, Chair. I would just like to point out that not everybody in this chamber has jobs or in employment earning salaries of in excess of £30,000 and £40,000 an annum, or have spouses or partners earning in excess of £150,000 to £160,000 per annum, and being a councillor because it's that little bit of pocket money. For some people on this side of the chamber, it's their only form of income. So we also have to pay council tax. We also have to pay for brown bins. We don't get it for free. We also pay for any increases that's implemented in this council. So we don't get it for nothing. We also pay as well. So I think an increase for people like this side, or for everybody, I think it's quite right that we get paid for the job we do. Some people work in excess of 30 and 40 hours a week doing council work. It's not just a couple of hours. We attend meetings, unlike some of the bench opposite that don't turn up for meetings. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Lilly.
Allowed to speak on the motion, having spoken on the right. Well, Councillor Pickard really ignores what that money was. He talks about £400 billion. The government saved people's jobs. government paid people a wage during COVID. The government paid to keep businesses open during COVID. Would you rather have not borrowed that money and seen everybody lose their jobs, every business go bust? If we'd left Labour in charge, we still wouldn't have had a vaccine.
Point of order. I'll wait until he's finished speaking. Point of order, because he's misunderstood what I said. I talked about not the total amount of borrowing. I talked about the 1.4 billion that's been identified as
this isn't a point of order.
And the 400 million was what's already been identified.
Sorry.
Has to be paid back.
Chair,
that's what was pointed, not the overall spending on COVID.
On a point of order, Chair, you've interrupted members from this side several times during this meeting. You, by the rules of the Constitution, have to act impartially. You are not doing so far this evening. I've raised a point of order. Sorry, I'm allowed to raise a point of order. I'm raising a point.
What is your point of order?
The point of order is you are treating members not impartially. Councillor Pickard was not raising a point of order.
Point of order,
Chair.
Not... What number is the point of order before the proceeds? Please quote the number.
Chair, can I explain? Are you on page 3? It says personal explanation. I waited till it finished, and he had got it wrong. He did misquote what I actually said, and it's in line with what has gone around. And probably once again, I haven't read the papers. Page 3.
Councillors, I think what Councillor Pickard was doing was making a point of personal explanation. Now that is provided for within the Constitution. He can do that.
But he didn't say that. He said he would make it.
I appreciate he didn't say that, and he's corrected now. I think that we're clear now that it was a point of personal explanation, which he's done so. So in terms of moving things on, I think in the list that I will give to the chair, the next person I've got on the list is Councillor Bones to speak.
Councillor Bones. Councillor Bunyan. Councillor Bunyan.
Yeah, I'm just going to speak on a personal point. I've just done a bit quick calculation. Maths was never my strong point. I just scraped GCSE grade C.
Sorry, Councillor, to interrupt you, but can you switch your mic off, Councillor? Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, just doing a quick calculation. Like I say, maths was never my strong point. I've sat here the night. I'm just going to speak for myself because everyone's got different personal circumstances on why they'll vote. And I've sat here and been told that I'm shameful, that it's disgrace. I'm disgraceful, that I've got my snout in a trough, and I'm immoral. And I've sat and listened to all of that. I've worked out here. My basic allowance before tax and national insurance is going to go up by £28.91 a month. Personally, I'm going to, once I work out what the difference is after tax and national insurance, donate it to a local charity every month. And that's what I'm going to do. If people want to call me shameful and immoral for that, then, but that's my personal choice on what I'm going to do. Okay.
Sorry, Councillor Thurlow.
Thank you, Chair. I think sometimes we've got to be a bit humble and bow to the superior knowledge of the opposition. They know a lot about the job retention scheme.
Councillor Frank, you have the right reply.
Thank you, Chair. And I'm grateful to Councillor Lilly. But I should perhaps advise him that it was my career as a maths teacher that helped me to understand and describe their ploy as mathematical manipulation, which of course it was. That's how the 24% came about. But much has been made tonight of the oft repeated phrase, councillors have awarded themselves a substantial increase, but strictly speaking, that's not true. These new allowances, determined by the entirely independent remuneration panel, won't kick in until the next financial year. And come May next year, there will be a different set of councillors in this room. For sure, some of us will not be here then. So we're actually voting on a set of allowances that the next incumbents will inherit. They're not actually for us. No councillor here is guaranteed to be in the position then that they are in now. Finally, I note that amongst the bluster and waffle of postured opposition, to the introduction of these increases next year. Only one councillor has contacted payroll to say that they don't wish to receive it. And I've got good reason to believe that that councillor is not on the benches opposite. So I'm simply going to ask the opposition, are you going to stand by your principles, or have you forgotten where you left them?
Chair, could I ask a question of the monitoring officer? Is it appropriate that Councillor Lott is getting information from payroll on who's contacting regarding their own payroll? I'm not sure that that would be confidential information, Chair.
I think if Councillor Lott can explain how he came by that information, it would help the chamber.
Yes, quite simply, Chair. I inquired if any councillor had requested that they not receive this pay award, and I was told that the answer was only one. No party affiliations were discussed, no names were mentioned whatsoever. In that context, the information was quite anonymised, I think is the expression.
Chair, I think that would probably be extremely worrying for yourself as the monitoring officer, that information is being given out, albeit anonymously, on who is contacting payroll and why that information is being given to an elected member. I would never expect
elected members are entitled to this information.
I think an investigation should be forthcoming, Chair.
Go on, push for one.
I think for the benefit of members, I can advise you that Councillor Lott didn't directly get the information from payroll. He actually asked for it via the Section 151 officer, and there was a discussion between myself and him as to whether or not we could provide that information. And on our discussion, we concluded that we could, because it gives an indication of how allowances were paid. No confidential information was disclosed.
If that concludes all the questions and discussion, we will go to the vote on the motion.
Can you open the vote, please? If all members have voted. If all members have voted, I'll close the vote.
So I have 44 for and 8 against. Thank you. That means the motion obviously is carried. Thank you. Brings us up to item 11, which is questions by members of the council. Received 4 valid questions. The first question is, Councillor Nott, would you like to ask the question, Councillor, or have it taken as read?
Thank you, Chair. First of all, before my question, I would like to say Happy International Day for the elimination of violence against women and girls. So my question is, will the Mayor commit to North Tyneside Council formally signing up to the Women's Rough Sleeping Census and to working closely with the Women's Rough Sleeping Census Coalition and the local victim contact scheme to ensure we are fully identifying, supporting and protecting women and girls who are rough sleeping in our borough. As we aware, you cannot change what you cannot see until women homelessness is measured and understood. It shows now it's very crucial. It's big by doing the census data. It's very important. Thank you, Chair.
Can Mayor answer the question?
Thank you. Thank you for your question, Councillor Nott. North Tyneside Council has a range of specialist provision in place to support homeless members of our community, including rough sleepers. Whilst this support includes female rough sleepers, women currently form the minority of this group. Within the current financial year, a total of 3 female rough sleepers have been supported by the service. Whilst the numbers continue to be low, this nevertheless is an increase on previous years. It is widely accepted that women face increased vulnerabilities, and as a consequence, women are believed to be more hidden and therefore at a disadvantage to accessing services. The Women's Rough Sleeping Census has been introduced to better understand the position to identify women rough sleepers, with the coalition looking to trying to improve the offer to female rough sleepers. The census has already been completed for 2025, but I can confirm that North Tyneside will be signing up to be involved in this work going forward. Thank you.
Councillor Nutt, do you have a supplementary?
I want to give my gratitude comment to our mayor for supporting the census. This kind of support, it really means a lot for the mission to prevent and all of form of women's homelessness within North Tyneside, to make sure women experiences are made visible, that their needs are understood, and homeless services are shaped using the real experience of women. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nutt.
Second question is Councillor Bailey. Would you like to ask the question, Councillor?
Thank you, Chair. In light of the 10% rise in race-related hate crime across the North East in 2024, will the Mayor commit to continuing support for initiatives such as North Tyneside Together that strengthen community cohesion? Will she write to the Northumbria Police and Crime Commissioner and thank her teams for their work in tackling these offences and supporting our affected residents?
Who's answering this? Sorry, Councillor Graham.
Thank you, Chair. In North Tyneside, the increase in hate crime has been 6%, which is lower than the regional average. We work very successfully in partnership with the Northumbria Police and the Office of the Police and Crime Commissioner in North Tyneside to tackle hate crime. As the chair of the Safer North Tyneside Partnership, I can assure you that we aim to continue to work together and implement initiatives that strengthen community cohesion, most predominantly North Tyneside Together. In addition, the new community safety strategy has a priority to promote community cohesion, and the forthcoming partnership plan will set up how we will do this in North Tyneside. The new strategy will be agreed in March 2026, and the plan will be produced by the summer of next year. I'm happy to contact the Police Crime Commissioner Office to thank her and her teams for their work. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Bailey, do you have a supplementary? In that case, we'll go on to question 3, which is from Councillor O'Keefe.
Will the Mayor write to the Northumbria Police asking them to look at using the powers under Section 60A of the Criminal Justice and Public Order Act 1994 to require people to remove face coverings at events or situations in North Tyneside where antisocial behaviour is likely? And will she also write to the Home Secretary to ask for stronger powers for local councils to help stop face coverings being misused in antisocial behaviour?
May I like to answer that question?
Thank you. Thank you for the question, Councillor O'Keefe. I can confirm that we work very successfully in partnership with Northumbria Police, and the Safer North Tyneside Partnership supports partners to reduce crime and disorder in the borough, including antisocial behaviour. We recognise the situations where the use of this legislation could be an advantage, specifically where people are using face coverings to deliberately conceal their identity in relation to crime and antisocial behaviour. It is, of course, an operational decision for the police as to when they use these powers, and I am happy to write to Northumbria Police to request review of the use of the powers and to also write to the Home Secretary regarding national support on this issue. Thank you.
Do you have a supplementary, Councillor? It takes us to question 4, which is Councillor Bones. Would you like to ask the question, or do you have it as read? I'll take it as read. Is that Carl Johnson? I believe you answered this.
There has been no delay. I know that Councillor Aldridge Brownhill, sorry, Preston Grange, will no doubt quote me as saying, I hope it would come to the November meeting, but to allow sufficient time to prepare a robust case for making a direction and consider the associated risks, the earliest this matter can be considered by Cabinet is January.
Thank you, Chair. residents were promised in September that the Article 4 direction would be brought forward swiftly. 4 months later, we have nothing but a holding slot on the January agenda. In that time, more HMOs have been created with no local oversight, and real pressure has built on streets across the borough. Can the Mayor tell us plainly why it was allowed to drift, how many new HMOs have been approved during that delay, and will she now commit to introducing a borough-wide immediate Article 4 direction, not another consultation, not another review, but immediate action?
That's what we're going to do in January.
Right, we now come to the chair's announcements. I was hoping by this time that we had got to my part of this. We got through it fairly easily. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen. But what I would like to say is I started off this month at a poppy lunch, which for the remembrance services, and I was delighted with the amount of residents from North Tyneside that turned out and supported them. I then went on to Mary Ann's sculpture on the quayside on a really wet day, and the amount of residents that turned out and supported that again were absolutely fantastic, and it shows that we do have some fantastic residents in North Tyneside. I then went on to an exhibition of celebration and heritage in the community spirit, which was a song which had been made up by the children of the primary school, and they were singing about what they liked in the borough now, what they'd like to see the change in 100 years' time, and what they'd like to see in 200 years' time. So they really are thinking ahead. So it's nice to know our primary school children are looking ahead, and the song was excellent. We also had the high school children, they put on a dance to celebrate where they live and how they enjoy the heritage. I finished off yesterday with a tour of HMS Tyne, and that was again very interesting. So starting off the month with a poppy lunch and remembrance services, and finishing off with a tour of the ship, who now goes out there and actually defends our communities and defends our shores. Sorry. So it is an honour to actually wear the chain. It's more difficult here on an evening like this, I must admit, but to go around the borough and meet some wonderful people, which we have in the borough, I can only commend those people and thank them very much for all the time. And I hope to spend another couple of months with those people going around. Thank you. And now ask the Mayor if she has any announcements.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I would like to extend my sincere thanks to my Cabinet members and officers who supported and attended the neighbourhood listening event on Saturday, the 22nd of November at the Beacon Centre in North Shields. Your engagement and commitment to your community, to our community, is greatly appreciated. The event provided an invaluable opportunity to hear directly from our residents, and I'd like to take the opportunity to also extend my sincere thanks to all of the residents who took the time to come along on what was a very cold morning to share their thoughtful views and feedback. And I was delighted to be approached by so many of those residents who just came along to tell us how impressed they were with the regeneration projects in North Shields and how this had helped restore pride in the town. I would also like to thank everyone, including parents, carers, grandparents, head teachers, governors, members of teaching staff who took the time to share their views in relation to the Strategic Education Review pre-consultation. Your contributions have played a vital role in shaping our approach and ensuring that the review reflects the needs and aspirations of our communities within the context of the challenges we face. And more thanks again to everyone who engaged in shaping development of our new council plan. It was an extensive engagement process that took place, and it had a great response. I look forward to working together to deliver on our ambitions to make North Tyneside an even better place to live, to work and to visit. I would also like to thank the many fantastic businesses that participated in the North Tyneside Business Awards event that was held recently at the Village Hotel. Congratulations to the winners of all award categories, including Accenture, who received the Significant Contribution Award, and huge congratulations to the overall winner, the Chocolate Smiths, producers of gourmet handmade chocolate bars, sound delicious, who were awarded the prestigious North Tyneside Business of the Year Award. Well done, and well done to everyone. You're all winners, but there can only be one who receives that award. Very difficult. As this is the last council meeting for 2025, I'd like to take the opportunity to offer my best wishes to you all for the festive season and for a peaceful, prosperous new year. Thank you all for your ongoing support and commitment to the residents of North Tyneside. Just before we finish, I would also like to place on record our thanks to someone who has made an extraordinary impact on North Tyneside, and that is Julie Firth, our Director of Children's Services. Julie unfortunately isn't in the chamber tonight, but nevertheless, I think it's really important to acknowledge her very important contribution. Under Julie's leadership, the support provided to our children and young people has been nothing short of exceptional. Julie has worked tirelessly to ensure that every child in North Tyneside has the best possible start in life, and her dedication has truly shaped the future of this borough. Julie's commitment and vision have not only improved lives, but have also been recognised nationally with the recent outstanding Ofsted rating, a remarkable achievement that speaks volumes about her leadership and the strength of her team. On behalf of North Tyneside Council, I want to thank Julie for her passion, her professionalism, and her unwavering focus. As Julie moves on to retirement, we wish her all the very best in the next chapter of her life. Thank you.
That only leaves me to thank you for your attendance. The meeting is now closed, and we will meet again in Thursday, 29th of January 2026.